provinces, the municipalities, you're looking probably estimation of more than 700 million. So that's quite a lot of money.
Free State High Court Judge Philip Lobza is expected to hand down his judgment this afternoon in Bloemfontein to either grant or deny the state permission to appeal his decision to release Murwadi Cholota, who is the former PA of the Free State Premier Ace Magashule. Lobza set Cholota free last week when he found that extradition from the US was unlawful and that no South African court has jurisdiction to try her. The state says Cholota is a critical part of the case as she is the link to some among the 18 accused in the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal scandal. Defence Minister Angie Motshekga says they are experiencing logistical challenges in bringing home the first group of soldiers who were part of the SADC force in the DRC. She was addressing the media at the Tempe military base in Bloemfontein. Motshekga says they are certain they have boarded a plane which will bring them back home. 250 soldiers were expected to arrive at the Air Force Base Bloemspruit at midday. Motshekga says the soldiers might arrive any time between today and tomorrow at the latest.
And indications that the arrival has been delayed due to technical and logistical challenges with the contracted airline, which was done by SADC. We have been assured that they are already on board and will definitely arrive anytime today or tomorrow by the earliest. So we will continuously keep the media on any keep informed on any development.
The financing of preparations for any future pandemic is among issues discussed on the last day of the 4th G20 Health Working Group in Johannesburg. Health leaders and experts from across the world attended the meeting. The Gauteng Health Department's Anban Pillay says if a pandemic were to start tomorrow, countries around the world must have a financial plan to respond effectively.
This morning we had a joint financing and health task force meeting. It's health ministries together with the treasuries talking about financing of various aspects of pandemic preparedness, one of which is what we call day zero financing. So if a pandemic started tomorrow, each treasury must have a plan about where the money is going to come from. We also spoke about how national public health institutes need to be appropriately funded and resourced so that when the pandemic does arrive, they're able to respond effectively, because they would be the primary response vehicle for most countries around that.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has visited the scene of last night's deadly crash in the city of Ahmedabad. He also went to a nearby hospital to meet some of the injured. All but one of the 242 people on board a London-bound flight died when a Boeing Dreamliner 787 crashed into a hospital complex on takeoff. The BBC's Samira Hussain reports.
Throughout the morning, there's been a steady stream of ambulances that have been coming through here, but there are no survivors in those ambulances. It's actually to transport the bodies. Throughout the morning, there's been a steady stream of family members that have been walking out weeping. I mean, one woman came out and her cries were so guttural, it echoed. You could really get a sense of just how profound her grief was.
Recapping the top story, the cost of the National Dialogue, which was announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa earlier this week, has been estimated at 700 million rands. I am Ondalambana for SAFM News Headlines at 3:30.
In sports this hour, the Proteas sitting on 48 for 1, needing 234 runs to win against Australia in the World Test Championship final. Jake White dismisses finals history ahead of the URC clash, and Club World Cup action takes centre stage this weekend. More details at 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Spar brings you 4 days of even more, 13 to 16 June only. Get 1 kg stock country spread tub for 42.99, save 15 rand. 1 litre liquid fruit, any 2 for 50, save 26 rand. 5 kg Goldie IQF chicken, mixed portions, just 179.99, save 80 rand. Or 2.5 kg Hewlett's white sugar, only 49.99, save 19 rand. Only at Spar while stocks last.
SAFM invites young people between the ages of 18 to 35 to take over the airwaves this youth month. All you have to do is send a WhatsApp voice note or text message to 061 410 4107 or email info@safm.co.za. Tell us which show you'd like to co-host and what youth-focused issues the G20 should incorporate ahead of the summit. And we could be calling you. Terms and conditions apply.
Right, you can certainly do this now. Apply online for Absa Ultimate Banking with 34 benefits while listening to the show. This is what ultimate success looks like. It's getting your daughter the ballet shoes you promised thanks to a 2,000 Rand balance booster. While Ultimate Goals is living life on your own terms with a 0 monthly fee credit card, Absa Ultimate Banking is about having it all in one account for 98 Rands a month. Your story matters. Absa. Subject to affordability and scoring. Benefits may be subject to limitations. Terms and conditions apply. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Welcome to the show. I'm just thinking, today is the beginning of a weekend that culminates with the June 16th public holiday on Monday. And I don't know to what degree do you reflect when it comes to June 16th every year. Do you reflect on what happened on that day in 1976? Or do you ignore that completely, but still reflect on perhaps some of the lessons to learn? And of course, I think it's important to reflect on it, but I am wondering that at this point in time, you draw inspiration from 1976, but what's critical is that we use June 16th now as a major empowerment force for the youth of South Africa, because the youth that needed issues addressed in 1976 and the youth now still have big issues. And it's a lot more about looking forward and finding solutions for the problems of the youth today than being nostalgic about the past. It doesn't mean you must forget the past. You absolutely cannot. But a lot of the focus has got to be on 2025 and beyond, isn't it? And that's what I think. Anyway, I'd like to get your thoughts, because that's my point. What's yours, right? Okay, I tell you what. You know that the president is in Mthatha. He's been visiting the Eastern Cape after the floods. We'll have an update on that as well. Welcome to the show. My name is Ashraf Garda. Wonderful to connect with you as always here on the National Pulse, and so appreciative of the great feedback we get as a team for the work that we do. We really, let me just say this up front, it absolutely does matter when you, as the audience, whether it's on a WhatsApp text message or a voice note or a live call-in, or you're tweeting out using the hashtag The National Pulse, all of the above, right? We, in all cases, it really matters that you engage with us, right? Now, I mentioned to you earlier on that the president is in Mthatha. In fact, he's off to Canada, I think, by tomorrow. So now he's visiting the Eastern Cape after the flood. So he just addressed the media in the province, looking at just the huge impact of the atrocious weather and the loss of life. And this is what he had to say.
13 years ukuya kwi-14 years. Ezantsi kwakhe kubhubhe utata khona nomntana khona. Umama wakhona upha eholweni ngedamsanqa likaThixo wafumaneka ebambeke esihlahleni ngapha ezantsi. Wephukile kodwa apha engalweni, usindile kodwa yena uyaphila. Amanzi kodwa amthatha endlini apha ngokudilika kwendlu.
So nina ke xa nifika nizonceda aba bantu benisuka kwephi ndawo?
Thina mongameli sihlala ngapha kwelicala. Athe ukuba ehuthile lamanzi kwelicala siubona umlinganiselo waba wehlile. Seza ke ngozokhangela abanye abantu ngova ikhwelo kuba kukhona abantu kule mizi abayebakwazi ukuphuma engekagcwalisi lamanzi. Bafika ke baripota kulaa ndawo bekustake kuyo abantwana besikolo bebetyekezwe ibhasi. Omnye wabantwana besikolo oye wagive up around ipast 8 eziba usukela ngo6 ekhala ecela uncedo, simane simthembisa sithi bambelele emthini suba sayeka. Umthi uphaya mongameli ngapha ngasemva kwecala esisuka kulo. Wabekela mntana ubona inyoka wakhala wathi nantsi inyoka. wabe uyawuyeka umthilo bebambelele kuwo wabe umka namanzi laa mntana sizomfumana on the same day ngebus 5 ebambeke kobu bugoqo obukule flat le imhlophe ngakule pali samfumana sengasekho kubantwana bebebane bebephila bebambele emthini phaya sa sindisa ke aba bathathu besaphila bona aba bathathu.
Okay.
President, if we can just wrap up our visit here
So we're
while the
going
colleagues,
now.
and then we'll be going after this.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay. So,
Well, we've spent this is told. He's not going to shoot me. He may shoot me with his words, but not with a firearm. So stand aside. No, I've just been here with colleagues, with ministers, with the Premier and MECs, Minister Thabisa, Minister Motsoaledi, and Minister Kwahube, who has had to leave to catch a plane, and the Mayor of this OR Tambo, and a number of officials. I've been briefed about what happened here. I must say for starters, I've been hugely impressed with the way that our various departments at national, at provincial and at local government level responded to this disaster. This is a catastrophic disaster where the flood just went way beyond the banks of the river and rose, I would estimate, more than 4 meters high and swept through the various houses and killing up to 78 people. And the saddest part, not that the others are not sad, is that the children, young children, school transport was swept away and we lost them. I'm pleased with the way that Minister Thabisa, heading the disaster assistance, as well as Minister Kwahube and Minister Motsoaledi responded from national level. And the Premier himself was on the ground, even saving some of the survivors and going through this area in his gumboots. So this is a catastrophe that I do believe could never have been foreseen, because as I see it, much as the people are slightly closer to the river, but they are quite a distance from the river. Where we are standing now is almost like 500 to 600 meters from the actual river. So for the river to have burst its banks in the way that it did is quite catastrophic, and it bears testimony to the challenge of climate change that we are now experiencing. It has never really happened that this time of the year that we should have floods and rain, and even in the Gauteng area we've had downpours of rain this time of the year, which we never really have. So the challenge of climate change is quite huge, and it is affecting the livelihoods of people, it's affecting infrastructure, and it's affecting the lives of people who we are losing. To have lost 78 people just within a matter of 2-3 days is quite catastrophic. I must pay my respect and recognition to the rescue teams. Our rescue teams, as well as our forensic teams, have been really good. They've responded quickly in real time, and some of the families have had anxiety, but they have also been comforted by the fact that the bodies of their loved ones have been found, and post-mortems, or autopsies rather, have been conducted, and now they will be ready to bury their dead. So this is a moment of sadness, even for us as we are walking around here. And we have pledged that we will assist the people who have suffered as a result of this. Government will be there to help with shelter at the moment, and we have to pay tribute also to non-governmental organizations that have been working with us, such as the Gift of the Givers and others. And our religious leaders have been on the ground continuously, and we thank them for that. So there has been quite a lot of assistance activity around this, and this obviously makes us be more aware of being disaster ready. And to some extent, yes, we have been, and we need to do more. So being here has given me a good briefing of exactly what happened here. We've received messages of support from other countries, which we are grateful for, from various countries around the world, and that just goes to show that we don't live alone on this earth, and there are those who see and watch what is happening and pledge their solidarity, which is what our G20 presidency is all about fostering equality, solidarity, and sustainability.
And just to recap, I mean, you heard the comments of the president, but at the beginning of that voice clip, he spoke to a gentleman speaking in isiXhosa right now. That was one of the residents in the Mthatha region, and we painted a picture for the president on what was happening with the floods and how things got out of hand. And he was telling the president how they found some of the kids who were stuck, and made reference to one who was found, hanging on a tree for their lives. And that reflects just the sheer scale of the disaster in that region. Now, you may well be coming from that region, and if so, I'd love to hear from you in terms of personal stories, because I think the human story is so important. So one is talking about relief efforts, which we have touched on, and we will do so again. But very importantly, what about the personal story? Do you know or you have family members who have had to suffer with the trials and tribulations of the last few days? And if so, are you able to tell us that? You can remain anonymous if you like, and certainly not reference them by name. But I think the stories and how they've had to survive it, and in some cases, of course, losses of life, as you know, is really important. This is the National Pulse, and you are so connected to the show and all that we talk about in terms of feeling the pulse of the nation for the next 3 hours or so.
As a business owner, I've noticed how being energy efficient has improved my savings and the growth of my business. You too can improve your margins by adopting energy efficient behaviors. Simply switch to energy saving lighting, switch off non-essential equipment, and maintain HVAC systems. These are some of the ways you can use electricity wisely to see your business soar, as well as contribute to a greener planet. Just like every rand counts, every kilowatt counts. Let's use electricity wisely. Eskom.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matriek mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bakkie to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Now, you know this. Let me remind you once again, you can apply online for Absa and Ultimate Banking with 34 benefits while listening to the show. This is what ultimate success looks like. It's getting your daughter her ballet shoes, as you promised, thanks to a 2,000 Rand balance booster, while Ultimate Goals is living life on your own terms with a 0 monthly fee credit card. Absa Ultimate Banking is about having it all in one account for 98 rands per month. Your story matters. Absa. Subject to affordability and scoring. Benefits may be subject to limitations. Terms and conditions apply. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Tell you what, who wants to be a president? There's not a day of the week where you're not occupied in some place or the other. So as you know, the president in the Eastern Cape right now, but before you know it, he's heading off to Canada, in fact, and that's for the G7 Leaders Summit that takes place over the next few days. Lots of questions coming out around that one there, and I understand, as always, there's the summit and there's talks that happens off the summit itself, on the sidelines of the summit. Canada, of course, chairing it, so I understand that the invitation goes to South Africa, which again gives a sense of the stature of this country that does also host the G20 summit, as you know, later this year. Well, to tell us all about that and a whole lot more is Sophie Mokoena, SABC News International Editor. Sophie, as always, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Thank you, Ashraf.
Thank you. Help us understand this firstly. G20, the G7 rather, how does that differ from G20?
Well, the G7, it's the 7 industrialized countries, including the United States of America, and most of members of that group are also members of the G20, and therefore there's an overlap. But you are correct to say South Africa is not a member of the G7. But you know that since 1994, starting from the tenure of the former South African President Thabo Mbeki, because he was the chair of the African Union, South Africa was always invited, and also other African countries, and that is a sign that South Africa has been part of the gatherings, also presenting an African position. As you know, that there was a time where Africa presented its NEPAD as a blueprint, indicating to the G7 countries, the most industrialized nations, and for them to be industrialized, they used our resources. They left the continent poorer, to say this is a blueprint if you want to help us with development, because we are where we are because of you. And therefore, there has been that relationship. President Zuma was also invited, but later he didn't get the invitation. You know the reasons. It was during that height of the state capture. Mm-hmm. And then this tradition was revived with President Ramaphosa being invited, and then it's now continuing. But this time around, you know that he is the current leader of the G20, and therefore they are going to compare notes with G7 in terms of how you can make sure that the agenda of the G20 and the G7 does relate, and therefore you have that synergy in terms of addressing issues of development, security, climate around the world.
So, I mean, you raise important points. So therefore, in your understanding of what would South Africa's purpose be, so not being an official member of the G7, they get invited, then certainly from a Ramaphosa point of view, you don't just go there and go and chill, as one would say. There would be a specific plan. What is your understanding of what would our plan be, and what would we want to get out of our presence at the G7?
I mean, members of the G7 being members of the G20, you want them to support your theme. You know that there's a concern from the United States of America rejecting the theme of the G20. You want a buy-in, but also high on the agenda. You want to ensure that they are able to support you in terms of South Africa's wish in relation to the outcomes of the G20, issues that you want the member states to address and to perhaps take action and implement decisions that will be taken. You want to even go as far as ensuring that you want the summit of heads of state and government to adopt a communique. We know that the past few years, the G20 Leaders Summit is not able to adopt the communique because of the war in Ukraine and now the war in the Middle East. And therefore, you want to start lobbying these people when they come. At least they must speak in unison in terms of what needs to happen to address the challenges that we are facing. I mean, Iran last night and Israel, clearly few days before Canada, clearly this is going to dominate the G7, but you don't want G7 to be derailed by what transpired in the Middle East. And therefore, this is a moment to speak to leaders, even bilateral, in terms of saying, this is, for me, a better line of march.
Yeah, lots to consider. And you're quite right about the developments between Iran and Israel and the fallout, even in terms of the USA, right? President Ramaphosa made the point about his commitment to global dialogue. I mean, now there's no surprise there. Part of that dialogue, I understand, is there will be a planned meeting on the sidelines of the summit with President Trump once again.
That is not the case. The president said he is going to meet him in a sense that they will be at some point in time in the same room. And because it's a small group, there will be a moment where they will greet each other. And you know, in diplomacy, you don't have to spend hours and minutes, you know, discussing. You can have just a short interaction in terms of issues that you want to talk about and indicate that we can take the discussion further through the protocol office or the foreign affairs or the relevant department. But that's what he meant. But we don't know. Who knows? Okay. President Trump is President Trump. He might decide. The argument is that they've had a long meeting at the Oval Office. Not much has changed in terms of what they have to discuss because they've agreed in terms of what needs to happen. But you can't rule out that moment, and that, you know, the body language will be quite important to see how President Trump is going to greet President Ramaphosa, because they will be in that small room where you have only few people.
Absolutely. Okay, here's the last thing as we get to news then, therefore. So you made the point about some of the big priorities, but from a South African perspective, what then would you call, what would you regard as a winning trip for our president? If he goes and comes back home and say, this has been very, very successful, what would that entail?
To get the G7 members to agree to the theme of the summit in December, and also perhaps to be able to discuss the issue of climate change. Because you'd recall the last G7 he attended, the G7 member countries made a commitment and made finances available to assist South Africa to implement the energy transition, just energy transition. But it was under Biden. It was easy. Now you have President Trump. What's going to happen? And therefore, I think those two main issues, of course, bilateral, they will discuss the Middle East. They will discuss Ukraine, because, you know, South Africa has been involved in trying to persuade the two sides, Ukraine and Russia, to agree on a peace process and the children to be taken back to Ukraine, which is apparently now happening. And on the other hand, you want that peace process in the Middle East and ceasefire.
Let's see how much leverage do we really have. Sophie Mokoena, SABC News International Editor, thank you so much. Speaking about South Africa and our president ahead of his weekend trip to Canada for the G7 Leaders Summit. Here's the news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa has commended Eastern Cape authorities and all other government departments through their disaster services for the swift response to the flood disaster that has hit parts of the province. Families of the flood victims in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape are identifying their loved ones at the Forensic Pathology Laboratory. And U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran must make a nuclear deal with the United States before nothing is left of that country. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in four-ways, slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive. The N3 northbound in Bedford View has a stationary vehicle near Van Buren Road, and the N1 southbound in Pretoria, a stationary truck near Linwood Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound and earlier stationary truck before Hummersdale exit has been cleared, but traffic remains slow-moving. And Umgeni Road westbound, slow-moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M5 northbound, slow-moving towards the N1 Koeberg interchange. The N2 outbound is queuing through Somerset West, and Albert Road outbound, slow-moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
To me, I've noticed being Friday, you are wearing a top that reflects the national cricket team. It's very intentional, I'm clear of that.
Absolutely. I think I've gotten to a point to just accept the fact that I've got a jersey for every occasion. And what better way than to wear a Proteas Test jersey? It's not the current one, but listen, it fits the purpose. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Talking about cricket, South Africa are currently 70 for 1, and they need 212 runs to get to the total of 282 that has been set by Australia to win the World Test Championship final. Earlier on, Australia started the day on 144 for 8, leading by 218. Then they added 63 to be bowled out 207 in their second innings. Kagiso Rabada took all in all 9 wickets, and Bo Webster top scored for Australia in that second innings with 72 runs. Now, remember, South Africa's highest successful run chase was 440 in Perth. So I definitely think that I'm very positive with them being able to chase this one. Also, just looking at the conditions, Ashraf, it looks like it's way better today.
It's something I told you the other day. I said it could well flatten out, so I hope that's the case.
Yeah, well, if South Africa are successful, it will be the joint highest successful run chase at Lord's specifically. In rugby, Bulls coach Jake White insists that past results won't influence tomorrow's United Rugby Championship final against Leinster at Croke Park. White was responding to Irish media questions about the Bulls' losses in their previous 2 finals, including last year's narrow defeat. He also dismissed talk of Leinster's own lack of URC title, saying both teams are starting from scratch.
I mean, it doesn't make any difference to... I generally don't believe that any coach ever talks about what happened 20 years ago and you lost in a playoff for, I mean, this group of players have probably far exceeded the expectation of anybody in the last 4 years. I mean, to play 3 finals with our average age of our team in the last 4 years has been the youngest of most teams in the competition. Over and above that, the experience of international rugby compared to any other teams we've played, and you talk about the Glasgows, the Edinburghs, the Leinsters, the Munsters, I mean, they're laden with international players, and you guys would know the premium of what it's like to be an international player, play in front of big crowds, play in big stadiums, play in pressure situations is the thing that defines players that are good enough and not good enough. So I'm not for 1 minute saying that we're not how can I put it? We're not aware of the fact that we've had 3 finals, but we're also very aware of the fact that we've exceeded everything that anyone's ever expected, and we've probably batted above our weight for a long time. But hopefully this game will be the one where we will learn from the two other opportunities we had to win a competition like this.
Well, the Bulls and Leicester clash is at 6 p.m. at the iconic 82,000-seater stadium in Dublin. Just going back to the cricket again, unfortunately, we have just lost another wicket. Rian Mulder falling at 27 of 50 balls. Themba Bavuma is coming in, so he's going to be at the crease with Aiden Markram, and will definitely keep a close eye as the action is rolling in. In athletics, KwaZulu-Natal Athletics Vice President Mandla Mngomezulu is the front runner in the upcoming presidential race that is set for tomorrow at 8 a.m. in Durban. A lawyer by trade, Mngomezulu will challenge the current president, Steve Mkhazi, along with track coach Chris White. In football, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso believes that their 3 group stage matches at the FIFA Club World Cup this month will help them gauge if they can truly dominate the African continent. The Brazilians take on Ulsan HD of Japan in their opener on Tuesday before facing Germany's Borussia Dortmund and Brazil's Fluminense in Group F. Now, Cardoso says that Club World Cup is the ideal tournament to test just how good the CAF Champions League runners-up and serial Betway Premiership champions are.
That's exactly the question, because I think by what I feel is that everybody's pretty proud by one side of being in that competition, but at the same time with the responsibility of knowing that they want to perform, because the mindset in the club is very strong towards performance, towards achieving goals, towards achieving trophies. Obviously we know where we stand, and we have, but also we know our ambitions and where we want to go to. We understand the reality, but we are willing to make our best in every challenge that we'll face. And that's also a test for us. In which level are we? Because we know that in Africa, we are one of the biggest teams. But we want to understand in which level also we can be regarding different realities in the world. Obviously, for myself as a coach that comes from Europe, I already worked in France, in La Liga. I worked in Spain, in La Liga, in Liga 1, in France. I worked in Greece. I worked in Ukraine, and Portugal, of course. So I have quite an idea about the level of teams and the players. But it's quite challenging to understand that teams will make a big difference, and we want to be very strong as a team. We know that we have important players, but we want to be very strong as a team when we arrive in the Champions League.
Meanwhile, FIFA President Gianni Infantino says that the Club World Cup, which kicks off on Saturday, tomorrow, it will mark a historic new era for the game, comparing it to the first World Cup held in 1930. Infantino also took aim at critics of FIFA's ticketing policy and said that the skeptics who had questioned the need for the tournament would quickly change their minds. The 32-team competition with the clubs from all continents gets underway with Inter Miami facing Egyptian club Al Ahly at the Hard Rock Stadium at midnight. This is South African time, so midnight Sunday morning. But before I say goodbye, let me just give you an update with regards to the Proteas. They're currently sitting on 72 for 2. And they need 210 runs to win against Australia.
Okay, and I'm just hoping, look, it's going to be very, very tense. As we spoke now, we've lost a wicket, so second wicket. So, you know, in a game like this, every run is like 2 runs.
Absolutely. I was actually hoping the partnership between Mulder and Markram would go all the way to 100 because they had just hit that 50 mark.
You need one big partnership. I mean, in fact, yesterday, what was guys 77 for 7, and then the tail wagged, and that's changed the whole dynamics of this fourth innings. If the tail didn't wag, then your wish would have come true. Like they wouldn't have had more than 150 to win the match.
Let's just cross our fingers. I'll have more in the next hour.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit CFI.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
We're extending the sunshine on Mzansi's favorite adventure SUV with Ford Blue Sky offers. For just $849,999, a new Everest XLT could be yours. Glide through the burbs or power through nature's toughest with a 3.5-ton brake towing capacity. You'll even get 4x4 driver training through Ford Family Promise for free. Head to a Ford dealer and get your new Everest XLT for just $849,999. T&Cs apply.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals. After a successful career representing the likes of Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and SuperSport United, Thuso Phala tackles the property business. Join us as he breaks down his impressive portfolio and lets us in on his plans for the future. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 14 June at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
This Youth Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit, power, and potential of young South Africans. Join us as we dive into conversations that matter, from innovation to education and skills for the changing world, empowering youth for meaningful economic participation. Because at SAFM, we're not just talking, we're leading the conversations that move us.
Right, you know you can apply online for ABSA Ultimate Banking with 34 benefits while listening to this show, right? The National Pulse. This is what ultimate success looks like. It's getting your daughter the ballet shoes you promised thanks to a 2,000 Rand balance booster, while Ultimate Goals is living life on your own terms with a 0 monthly fee credit card. ABSA Ultimate Banking is about having it all in one account for 98 Rands per month. Your story matters. ABSA, subject to affordability and scoring. Benefits may be subject to limitations. Terms and conditions apply. ABSA is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Well, you know, there's been lots of conversation about the withdrawal of South Africa's troops, and that process, as you know, began from the DRC in April of this year. Now, this afternoon, the Defence and Military Veterans Minister, Angie Motshekga, briefed the media on this phased withdrawal process, and then explained a lot more about why the actual delay.
Hawks, let me first start off by greeting members of the media and thank you very much for attending to our press briefing and the arrival of our soldiers, to the senior leadership of the Department of Defense and the South African National Defense Force, to our distinguished guests, and good afternoon. It is really with immense pride and profound sense of gratitude that I stand before you. If you recall, on the 4th of May, we did announce the phased withdrawal of our courageous soldiers who were deployed in the semi-DRC. And this announcement had followed extensive regional diplomatic engagements, high-level consultations with various role players, and a demonstrable progress in peace efforts within the areas of Eastern DRC, specifically in Goma and Sake territories. As you are aware, our troops, the South African National Defense Force, were deployed alongside our sister partners from Tanzania and Malawi. So as I speak to you today, indeed I'm accompanied by members of the Military Command Council. We are delighted to announce to the people of our country that the first group, 249 of our troops who served in the vital mission, are due to arrive on South African soil from Tanzania today. It is worth noting that part of this meticulous withdrawal process includes the safe return of all our prime mission equipment, which is ongoing. As stated by the Chief of the South African National Defense Force during our last media briefing on this matter, he said we shall not leave even a pin behind. So all the necessary logistical support are continuing until the withdrawal is complete. We are fully aware that half of the work is done in terms of our prime mission equipment movement. Hence, we are working around the clock with our counterparts in the region to ensure that the process runs expeditiously with minimal logistical risks. And we do want to assure people of our country that we shall continue to keep them abreast of developments as the process unfolds. So the idea of seeing our soldiers in good spirits, and we are genuinely excited that they are coming home today. It is also a very powerful expression of the steadfast commitment to defend the territory integrity of our country and its people. Our main focus now is it's on prioritizing the standard procedures of demobilization. And this will include crucial psychosocial sessions, after which they will return to their respective units. Thereafter, will be reunited with their families. So allow me to take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt thanks to my counterparts from the Summit DRC, the troops contributing countries, mainly the United Republic of Tanzania and Malawi. Thank their ministers, but also take this opportunity to thank the government of Rwanda for allowing us safe passage through their territory, but more important also for the United Republic of Tanzania for affording all our troops a conducive green zone. So allow me to reiterate our commitment as a country that we remain steadfastly committed to a peaceful, stable, and prosperous region. With all said, we are currently experiencing logistical challenges with regards to the landing time of our troops today. The indication is that the arrival has been delayed because we were here, as I said, we were here from early in the morning. We're expecting them at about 12 midday. It's already 2, and the indication is that the arrival has been delayed due to technical and logistical challenges with the contracted airline, which was done by SADC. We have been assured that they are already on board and will definitely arrive anytime today or tomorrow by the earliest. So we will continuously keep the media on keep informed on any development. I thought I would also invite Babu Sangweni to really talk about the logistical challenges that we had, because mainly on our side, we're ready for them. We'll also take you to the place where we're going to receive them. We just had the delays because of the challenges that SADC had with the contracting air company. They initially started off, they were going to be using the Tanzanian Airways, but now we're told they've moved to Kenyan Airways. And what for us is gratifying, our officers who are in Tanzania said our soldiers are on board. So what we're expecting now is the arrival, which we really don't want to commit, but we're happy that they're on board. They can arrive anytime, 5 hours from here, but they've not left when we last spoke to them. And the challenges really have been around not to blame Tanzania, but the country which we had contracted, or which SADC had contracted to fly our soldiers back. So that's the disappointment that we have, because we're really anticipating that we'll have them by 12. But as I said, we were assured just a few minutes back by someone that they are already on board and can leave any time. And now, because I don't want you to say you said 7, now it's 7, it's not happening. So they're on board. They're going to arrive any time. Then we have to calculate the flying hours from Tanzania. Could be about 7 hours, 6 hours. So they will arrive late tonight, if not the latest tomorrow morning. And we're working on logistics as to how we receive them by the time they arrive. So we'll be ready all the time. Some of our officers have to stay here. We have a funeral tomorrow, but
okay, that's a sense of when these troops will arrive. From the DRC via Tanzania, as you've heard, or Kenya initially, now Tanzania, and back to South Africa, as per the Defense and Military Veterans Minister Angie Motshekga. Now, you may want to comment about it. I'm sure you do. In fact, you could also talk about the G7 Leaders Summit and what, for you, would be South Africa. What can they get the best out of the summit for themselves? Keeping in mind they're not officially part of it, but they're on the sidelines. They guess how, in fact, can they leverage it for the best for South Africa anyway, right? Well, this is the National Pulse. I welcome your calls, and I'll take your calls right away, in fact. So, you know the number. I always say that if you're a regular, you should keep that number permanently. But if you're a first-timer, then this is the number. This is for you to save on your phone so you have it. To call in live, 086 000 2032. And then to WhatsApp, it's 0614 104 107. And you can text or you can send us a voice note. Don't go more than 30 seconds, please, if you do that. You have the next option, which is to tweet as well on our social media pages using the hashtag The National Pulse. And then tag SAFM Radio and do tag me as well.
Can one word unlock eternal glory? Okay, maybe just a shiny trophy and bragging rights. it's Password US, hosted by the king of chaos himself, Jimmy Fallon. Celebrities try to guess words. Hilarity ensues. Logic? Optional. Laughter guaranteed. Password US, where saying the right word might win the game, but saying the wrong one is way more fun. Password US, Saturdays 7:30 on S3. Say it like you mean it, or don't. We're not judging.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit cfi.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, KG Mweketi.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Okay, let's hear what you have to say. Glenn in Bedford View, you're first up. Hi, Glenn.
Esraf, my friend, good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you. Go for it. What do you want to say?
Esraf, I'm rather shocked that the entire province of the Eastern Cape, they only have one emergency helicopter out of Gqeberha, whereas Eastern Cape has got two metros, isn't it? There's a metro in East London and the metro in PE, Gqeberha. So there should be at least 2 or 4 helicopters. And funny enough, my 11-year-old son, by the time the president was driven from Mthatha Airport to the disaster area, I then asked him to count how many cars were escorting the president. He stopped at 56. He said, Daddy, there's just too many cars. That number 56 is stopped. So it puzzles me that the president can have as many 56 cars surrounding him, visiting a disaster, area. It does not make sense to me. In a third world country. No, ANC must do better.
Well, there you are. I hear you completely in terms of what you're saying. And you may wonder, because, every day we speak, I think about a month ago, we had the problem about, not a month, few months ago, where Catherine Constantinides made the point about having a fire in the city of Joburg, and you're on a hiding to nothing because there's not enough fire engines. And then we found out a few days ago in the Brixton area that a family's house was set on fire or burned down, and 2 people lost their lives because the fire engines did not get to the home in time. So if you extend that to the whole country, we are desperately short of some of those basic services that we require in our country. So, Glenn, point taken. And your son's questions, very important. Let's see if we get answers from that sometime or the other. Thank you for that, right? Super. Okay. Let's get to more thoughts here. Lots of people want to comment about Angie Motshekga's thoughts. So let's pick it up. Yeah.
Hi, Ashraf. Andy Motshekga talks about the withdrawal of the South African Army or defense and their arrival. You see that we don't entertain that. What we realize on the part of Angie is just South Africa Defense Force being weak. So it means we could be, or we will be attacked, just as we have left the war over there. We failed dramatically. So she must have just kept quiet, man. Really, it's nauseating. Thanks, Willie and Kuma.
Thanks for that. I must tell you, one of the things that confused me about, like, maybe they're going to come via Kenya, maybe they're going to come via Tanzania, then maybe it'll be 6 hours, maybe 7 hours. We have to work it out. Like, why would you not know that? And I think this is important. These are members of the Defense Force we're talking about. You wonder, what sort of planes are they on? Like commercial or what? The president goes to the G7, I think rightfully so. can't be in a public space for reasons of security. I mean, just think about that too. You have to factor that in. But there are other areas we just seem to be falling short hopelessly, don't you think? Right, there's another one. Let me get to that. It's about cricket, by the way.
Ashraf, John in Bloemfontein, happy Friday. Ashraf, I just hope the guys, they just play normal, basic, boring cricket. They just select 2 or 3 or 4 shots at best. No reverse sweep, nothing like that. Just play, rotate, strike, take singles, play the bat ball, nothing else. Respect every ball, because this is what we need. Then we're winning this thing. Thank you.
I actually agree with you. You know what? I mean, there's obviously the pressure of winning a final, but the fact is, if you told someone beforehand that your country would need about 240, 50 odd to win a World Cup, a World Test final, that's a good enough target to chase. Now, I understand that it's a low-scoring game, but it's not 400, you know. So, yeah, you may well be right. I just hope common sense prevails, but we've lost 2 wickets, and that's a concern, right? Tite, in Bloemfontein, you want to comment about the SANDF, right? Go for it. Tite, hello? Oh, okay, please do call back. I want to hear what you have to say, because I think it's very important. And then we've got Nicolette, as always. You seem to be saying your Hout Bay picture. To the National Pulse, my heartfelt condolences to the families who have lost their loved ones and all who are suffering at this very difficult time. May God protect and comfort you, from Nicolette in Hout Bay. And saying, picture taken earlier this morning. Thank you, Ashraf, and the National Pulse team. Wonderful. It seems like you take a picture on a Friday. Is it one of those Friday chill times? But much appreciated. Lots of greenery, and I really appreciate that. And by the way, anybody else too, what about sending us your pictures, wherever you may be, listening to the show here on the National Pulse?
Ashraf, I think we will need 100 more national dialogues for as long as we have the likes of Angie Motshekga around us and occupying key positions in government. We will need a lot more national dialogues. Thanks, Ashraf. Thabo, Midrand.
Okay, there we are. Look, lots of people, and I see being really critical, it's like we don't need any national dialogue. So, but what is the absence of a national dialogue? Does that mean have nothing and leave it to the current politicians to make decisions? It's not quite working at this point in time. I mean, I think, to be fair, the national dialogue can feed in to a national dialogue that can effect change in a country. That's a good thing, but it can't just be another talk shop, workshop. But there has to be something that's very prescriptive. And when I chatted to Ella Gandhi the other day, she was not very clear what the brief was to her. She said, we'll find out, which is actually strange to me. Before you accept something, you need to know exactly what you are up for, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Yeah, let's pass our condolences to the families of Umtata disaster. That is a really heartbreaking and devastating story, especially when you hear people narrating stories how they lost their loved ones while they were talking on the phone. It's really, really heartbreaking. But there's another thing that is a main concern for me, Ashraf, the fact that the Premier was talking about the illegal occupation of land, where people will occupy a land which could result into disaster like this. I wonder the extent of that problem. How did it contribute to the fiasco?
Okay, well, I think many people raised it. Let me put that on pause because, of course, we'll pick up more comments from you just now. But right now, let's get to the news. It's 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. Eastern Cape authorities commanded for swift response, and Trump urges Iran to make a nuclear deal. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa has commended Eastern Cape authorities and all other government departments through their disaster services for the swift response to the flood disaster that has hit parts of the province. At least 79 people have died. Schools, roads and health facilities have been affected. The search for more victims continues. Ramaphosa has been visiting the province to assess the flood damage.
The way that our departments at national level, the way that our departments at provincial level and at local government level responded to this disaster. That to me demonstrates the capability of our government in responding to disasters like this. As the Premier says, it could have been much worse than this. Obviously, we are very, very disturbed that so many people have passed away, but it could have been much worse. The response teams acted quickly.
Families of the flood victims in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape are identifying their loved ones at the Forensic Pathology Laboratory. Some families say they have been camping out in Mthatha as some of their family members are still unaccounted for.
I am looking for 5 people. It's very painful to me. I am looking for my last-born daughter, granddaughter, and grandson. I am also looking for our house assistant and her son, who was living with them. I lost my brother. I identified his body yesterday amongst many bodies that are here. But my worry is, how are we going to lay him to rest? My mother and father do not have insurance.
In news just in, Judge Philip Lobza has dismissed the NPA's application for leave to appeal his decision to free Murwadi Cholota from standing trial in the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal scandal. The cost of the national dialogue, which was announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa earlier this week, has been estimated at 700 million rands. This has been confirmed by the National Dialogue's preparatory task team, which comprises of national foundations, presidential representatives and NADLAC. The National Dialogue Preparatory Committee has briefed the media in Rosebank, Johannesburg. Earlier this week, President Cyril Ramaphosa said a national dialogue will take place across the country and will be preceded by National Convention on 15 August 2025. It will set the agenda for the dialogue. The head of the Office of the Deputy President, Mduduzi Mbanda, is saying the committee will first present the draft budget to the Interministerial Committee.
What we could say firstly is that democracy is not cheap. Building a nation is very costly. And that's why the next thing we're going to do, emerging from this work, we're going to go to the Interministerial Committee where we present the draft budget. And then we workshop that budget. And just to give you a sense, just to pull the provinces, the municipalities, you're looking probably estimation of more than 700 million. So that's quite a lot of money.
Defence Minister Angie Motshekga says they are experiencing logistical challenges in bringing home the first group of soldiers who were part of the SADC force in the DRC. She was addressing the media at the Tempe military base in Bloemfontein. Motshekga says they are certain they have boarded a plane which will bring them back home. 250 soldiers were expected to arrive at Bloemspruit Air Force Base at midday. Motshekga says the soldiers might arrive any time between today and tomorrow at the latest.
And indications that the arrival has been delayed due to technical and logistical challenges with the contracted airline, which was done by SADC. We have been assured that they are already on board and will definitely arrive anytime today or tomorrow by the earliest. So we will continuously keep the media on keep informed on any development.
U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran must make a nuclear deal with the United States before nothing is left of that country. Sherwin Bryce Pease reports that experts warn that the chances of a regional conflict are now significant.
President Trump seemingly using the Israeli strikes against Iran as leverage, writing that there had already been great death and destruction in Iran, but that there was still time to stop the slaughter and make a deal with the United States. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei earlier warned Israel that it must expect severe punishment following its crime of attack against Iran, and the killing of a number of top military commanders and nuclear scientists. Trump said Iran should make a deal before it was too late, signaling that more Israeli strikes were likely. Sherwin Ricepeace, SABC News, New York.
Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa has commanded Eastern Cape authorities and all other government departments through their disaster services for the swift response to the flood disaster that has hit parts of the province. I am Ondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In your sports this hour, South Africa are 90 for 2 and need 192 runs to win against Australia in the World Test Championship final. And Sascock lays out mandate for new board, while Leclerc defends Ferrari amid speculations that Vasseur could leave. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound is slow moving towards Boysens. The N1 northbound in Pretoria, busy conditions at Pumalani Toll Plaza, and the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview, queuing on both routes towards Gilulis interchange. In KZN, the N2 northbound, a stationary vehicle reported before the M41 gateway exit. All lanes are open. The M7 St John's Avenue is queuing through central Pinetown, and the N3 eastbound has a crash reported after Cliffdale exit. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Koeberg interchange. Voortrekker Road eastbound is slow moving through Maitland, and Stellenbosch Artiel Road eastbound in Kelsriver slow moving at Nooinsfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Specsavers Audiology, South Africa's largest audiology group, brings you the all-new Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aids. Experience cutting-edge features at a price you can afford. For a limited time only, buy one Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one and get 50% off the second. Visit specsavers.co.za to find your nearest store and ask for Clarity Pro today. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
Can one word unlock eternal glory? Okay, maybe just a shiny trophy and bragging rights. It's Password US, hosted by the king of chaos himself, Jimmy Fallon. Celebrities try to guess words. Hilarity ensues. Logic? Optional. Laughter guaranteed. Password US, where saying the right word might win the game, but saying the wrong one is way more fun. Password US, Saturdays 7:30 on S3. Say it like you mean it, or don't. We're not judging.
Take a bite full of mystery on the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 contestants face off in the Elimination Challenge. It's all about fine dining desserts and finesse, inspired by South Africa's first award-winning halal fine dining restaurant, the Happy Uncles. Who will taste sweet victory? That's the Tastemaster SA, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
SAFM invites young people between the ages of 18 to 35 to take over the airwaves this Youth Month. All you have to do is send a WhatsApp voice note or text message to 061 410 4107 or email info@safm.co.za. Tell us which show you'd like to co-host and what youth-focused issues the G20 should incorporate ahead of the summit. And we could be calling you. Terms and conditions apply.
Right, you know this. You can apply online, that is, for the Absa Ultimate Banking with 34 benefits while listening to this show. This is what ultimate success looks like. It's getting your daughter the ballet shoes you promised thanks to a 2,000 Rand balance booster, while Ultimate Goals is living life on your own terms with a 0 monthly fee credit card. Absa Ultimate Banking is about having it all in one account for 98 Rands per month. Your story matters. Absa, subject to affordability and scoring. Benefits may be subject to limitations. Terms and conditions apply. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I think there's two global issues worth just commenting on. One is this attempt to break the siege, the Gaza siege, and this march that's taken place from people from Tunisia gathering in Egypt and now attempting to get close to that border in Gaza, in Palestine. Let's see what happens on that story, right? The other one is the so-called preemptive strike of Israel, being threatened, as they would say, by the nuclear capabilities of Iran, and therefore they've preempted all of that, and they, as you may be aware now, overnight sort of destroyed much of the machinery there. That's one thing. Donald Trump has commented about it. I'll look at that just now, but you may want to give me your own thoughts on that. And maybe just the last one to pick up on from what we spoke about just now, regarding that the caller we had who then spoke about the cars, right? And he found there were 26 cars with the president. So I see Lorenzo Davids, you know, I chat to him often on the show, said, how many cars are appropriate for the South African president to have in this convoy? A 26-car convoy is outrageous in my view. So let me put that to you. I mean, how many cars is right? Meaning, the president needs security. I think let's get that. You can't have no security. But is it 5 cars, 3 cars, 2 cars, 26 cars? What's suitable for the president of our country? And while we're talking about traffic of one sort, let's get into another issue about law enforcement and road safety. We have with us now Simon Zwane, who's the RTMC spokesperson. Simon, good to connect with you once again.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Thank you. Now, of course, we talked to you ahead of Youth Day coming up next week, but also the Department of Transport launching its law enforcement and road safety program with special issues around road safety advocacy. Tell me more about that.
Yes, we are engaging on a road safety education campaign focused on the youth. We'll do this because our statistics tell us that about half of the people who are dying on the roads are young people. These are people who have just completed their tertiary education, people who are still in their productive years. So they're dying needlessly on the roads because of negligent driving, because some of them are knocked down by vehicles while they walk on the streets as pedestrians. So we understand that if we can reduce the number of young people who are dying on the roads, we will be able to move closer to meeting the 2030 goals that we have set ourselves to achieve together with the United Nations to reduce road fatalities by at least 50% when we get to the year 2030.
I think it's important you bring it up. You know, South Africa's road fatality rate is just horrific. It's completely unacceptable. And I think, am I right in saying when you measure that against other countries in the world, we come nowhere close, meaning we like world champions at this amount of people dying on the roads, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is still high, although we have got reason to be hopeful because we've seen some reduction over the years. I mean, over the years we were having 25 people per 100,000 who are dying on the road population. We've gone down to about 19, which indicates some progress, but that is still very high. We want that to be cut even further down.
So let's zone in on the youth, because I mean that's the issue you brought up, right? What are the youth doing in terms of their driving habits? So this is excluding the bad roads that we drive on anyway, which is another conversation. But the bad driving habits of young South Africans, what can you tell us about them? What do you see, and therefore what can you actually change?
What we see among young people is that they are the ones who drive under the influence of alcohol. They are the ones who are on the road most of the time. As it's a long weekend, they will be driving from one end of Gauteng to another. Others are driving right through to other provinces, and they will do that while under the influence of alcohol at high speeds and with vehicles that are fully loaded with passengers. So when there's an accident, you see a high number of people dying as a result. Some of them are dying as passengers in public transport vehicles. And of course, they're also dying while walking in the residential areas.
Now, I mean, I can think of years and years we have this conversation around better road safety habits, right? What do you think needs to change? It can't just be a case of we hope you're going to be safe driving safely next week.
No.
Something dramatic has to happen.
No, certainly. And fortunately today, the Minister of Education, together with the RTMs and other stakeholders, were launching road safety as a subject in the school's curriculum, starting from grade 1 to grade 12. The curriculum has now been finalized. Road safety is within the textbooks, and we will now begin to institutionalize road safety within the education system so that it's not something that we undertake sporadically. Children of school-going age until matric, they will be taught about these things throughout their schooling years, and we hope that then that will produce a more conscious road user among them.
I mean, I see even the Transport Minister, Barbara Creecy, making the point that June is a very unfortunate month on South Africa's roads because of the amount of people that die on the roads in that month. And when you link that to the fact that it's also Youth Month, something just does not seem to be working, isn't it?
Yeah, but there are reasons for that. June is the start of winter, and then the days. The day becomes shorter, so you have darkness starting quite early, around 5:30, 6. It's starting to be dark, and our people can't drive at night. And then you start seeing an increase of accidents from around 7 in the evening because of that. But also because then people are using heaters in their vehicles because it's cold. And then they become drowsy and all of that, and that also becomes a factor in winter. But there are also felt fires that affect visibility. There's mist, there's fog in other areas where people are using fossil fuels to warm up or to cook, and that creates hazards on the roads.
You're giving me a classic case of stay at home, especially don't ride on country roads, because there's just no reason that you need to be there as per your comments. Simon, let's leave it at that. Simon Zwane, the RTMC spokesperson, as we get to a weekend that culminates with the Youth Day and their call from Transport about we need to be very, very clear about reducing the number of road deaths, particularly amongst young South Africans, annually, and not just in June, but every single month, on every single day of the year. This is the National Pulse.
Welcome back to the sun-drenched shores of St. Marie, where the beaches are beautiful and the murders are mysterious. It's Death in Paradise Season 7. New cases, quirky suspects, and D.I. Jack Mooney, who's still figuring out the island and how to drink coconut water gracefully. Catch the show where paradise meets puzzling crime, because even in paradise, someone always has a secret. Death in Paradise Season 7, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 28 May. S3, open up.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals, after a successful career representing the likes of Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and SuperSport United, Thuso Phala tackles the property business. Join us as he breaks down his impressive portfolio and lets us in on his plans for the future. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 14 June at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Besides live, let me remind you this podcasts, a whole significant number of conversations we've had over the last week and the previous week, of course, right? And all those podcasts are available. What you have to do, besides finding it on Twitter, if you just search under the hashtag The National Pulse, you'll pick it up. But if you go to our website, safm.co.za, and then go podcast and then The National Pulse, you will find them all there. So do listen and share that as a means of conversation over the weekend, right? And perhaps you can talk about this too. Following the successful hosting of public hearings in Mpumalanga, the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs is now holding public hearings on the marriage bill in the Northwest Province region, which started today. Now, the hearings in the Northwest leg is the fifth of the provincial public participation processes. Let's find out more about it with Musa Shabani, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs. Much appreciate your time, Musa. Thanks for connecting with us on the National Pulse.
So thanks, and good afternoon, Ashraf and our listeners.
Thank you. So let's talk about this public participation process with regard to the marriage bill.
Yeah. We're engaged in the public hearing, consulting all members of the public, including stakeholders, around this bill that was tabled before Parliament. You recall that it was the initiative after the Constitutional Court judgment.
Yeah, okay, so what would be the bottom line? I mean, what would be the end goal? So engaging the public to what end?
Well, we have a responsibility as Parliament, all members of the committee, when we deal with the law, we ought to consult members of the public. So to this case, that since it was tabled before Parliament, we have subjected this process to the public. The objective is that is to rationalize all existing marriage laws. And as you know, that the Constitutional Court took a judgment that the Marriage Act 1961 is inconsistent with the Constitution that does not include certain marriages, including Muslim marriages. So we're consulting members of the public around these single statutes that has been tabled before Parliament by the Department of Home Affairs.
So wait, you mentioned that the Muslim marriages, but are there others as well that you're saying that these are people who get married under certain religious laws and they're not recognized by South Africa and therefore it's unconstitutional, therefore the change, right? Yeah. Are there others too?
No, the court dealt with the Muslim marriages and that we need to correct the inconsistency in the Constitution.
Okay.
But I think so far, in terms of engagement, members of the public are responding well. We've just concluded here in Rustenburg. We're going to Mafikeng tomorrow around this subject matter.
Okay, and of course I understand this is the fifth province. What sort of feedback are you getting so far from these public participations?
Well, we're getting a good response in terms of the intention of the bill that it rationalizes all existing laws. But what is we're getting from members of the public is around the cohabiting, as you know, that but we've got this thing of age of a person want to be involved. The bill proposed that must be 18 years old, but a significant contribution such as that they want age limit to be, age to be increased to 2021. So those are some of the issues that were raised, including marriage, getting involved with the foreign nationals. Some of those issues that are being raised by members of the public.
Okay, an interesting one. We've got a question from a caller, and it's nice that they do that. So Pat's saying, are they doing anything? That means, are you doing anything to look into marriages of convenience, marriages that based on people trying to secure citizenship? You know, when you think about movies and the green card, you looking into that at all as part of the conversations and consultations?
Yeah, that's a part of the conversation that is emerging from the public hearing. But the Department of Home Affairs, on the other side, they're engaged, as you know, that we've identified that the fraudulent marriages, documents that have been sold outside the framework of the law by syndicates that are working within and outside the Department of Home Affairs. But this is among the subjects that have been raised by the members of the public, pay more attention to the issues that have been raised.
Okay. What happens next? So this is Province 5 and thereafter?
I will be left with Free State, Northern Cape, and Limpopo. And once we have concluded all the provinces, will then engage with the specific sector stakeholders, traditional and religious community, the institution, or the organization, the bodies that represent all of them. And then we'll therefore meet with the Department of Home Affairs, present a collective report that we have received on the issues in relation to this bill. Once we have done that stage, we'll then have to deliberate as members of the portfolio committee, then present a report to Parliament around what we've received and what Parliament may need to consider. And thereafter, the NCOP will also subject this process to public hearing until the President consider for assent.
And I know it's difficult to put it down into numbers or months or years, but from now on, how long do you think the process typically may take?
Well, the Constitutional Court gave us a time frame, 24 months, to conclude this process. In other words, next year. But we think that we must, because the NCOP ought also to outline its process in terms of public hearing, public comment, and therefore deliberate on the issues until we submit the matter or the bill to the President. So it needs a lot of time, but we must make sure that sufficient consultation, members of the public, stakeholders, political parties contribute to this proposed bill.
Okay, let's leave it at that because, as you said, there's a long journey, but there's a 24-month deadline. So thanks for enlightening us on that for now, and let's get the feedback from the public and take it from there. By the way, just one last comment, Musa. If people need to know more, can you direct me to either a contact number or a website if they need to get more information?
Well, they must go to the website of Parliament, parliamentary website. All submissions are still, anyone can write or submissions or contact the stakeholders within parliamentary institutions. So parliamentary website is open for submissions, and we encourage all members of the public and all those that are interested on the subject matter to contribute to enhance this proposed bill.
Okay, point taken. Musa Chabane, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs. So this is regarding the public hearing. So it's nationwide. Public hearings on the marriage bill. This week it's in the Northwest region, but they've been to 4 other provinces before, and they'll go through all 9 provinces, and then feedback from the consultations and the participation into a situation where ultimately it may become a law and then align more to the Constitution as we expect it to be. Thanks for connecting to the National Pulse.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Okay, there are comments from you, and it's great that people are WhatsApping, so let's pick up some of those. Here's another one referring to Angie Motshekga.
Hey, Ashraf. Jonathan from Kabeja. Yeah, Angie Motshekga doesn't know what she's talking about. The flight from Kenya to South Africa is about 4 hours. Tanzania even sooner or shorter flight. She doesn't know where these guys are. She doesn't even know what plane they're on. She should rather just keep quiet. And she doesn't know what she's talking about. And these poor soldiers are away from their family. So poor.
Well, I must say, I also picked that up. Having come through Kenya and Tanzania recently, it's if you're traveling from, say, the Middle East and you're traveling, then those stopovers are like the last leg. They're not like the beginning. It's very much the end. So, it's nowhere near the 6 or 7 hours that's been spoken about. And I found it strange too, right?
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, you know what? It would be actually very nice if one day you can get the president on radio for an interview. Just for him to basically, hear it from the people on the ground. What is their frustrations? Because I felt like the show is very powerful. The show is be addressing, but I would love to get him here one day. I don't want a spokesperson or whatever. It would be definitely nice if it's the president himself. Sandiso from the Western Cape.
Well, there you are. You're absolutely right. If you asked me, would I like to have the president in studio for a 1-hour conversation? The answer is absolutely yes. And I don't mean close to election time. I mean now, right? Absolutely. I think we've tried, and I'd love us to try even further to say whether we can nail that. because I think you're right. When we talk about the national pulse, then he, the leader of the country, by election, is reflective of exactly that. What is the nation feeling and the pulse of the nation? So it's on the wish list, and I hope that we can deliver soon, one day, right? 4:30, here's the news headlines.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Judge Philip Lobza has dismissed the NPA's application for leave to appeal his decision to free Muruadi Charlotte from standing trial in the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal scandal. President Cyril Ramaphosa has commended Eastern Cape authorities and all government departments through their disaster services for the swift response to the flood disaster that has hit parts of the province. And human rights groups say the Nigerian president's decision to pardon 9 Niger Delta activists who were executed in the 1990s does not go far enough. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Gous.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Buccleuch has a crash reported after Marlborough Drive. The R21 northbound in Kempton Park has delays towards the R23 Benoni exit, and the N3 northbound in Bedfordview has a crash near Van Buren Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound, a stationary vehicle before the M25 Commercial Highway. The N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle before the M41 Gateway exit, and the N2 southbound has a crash reported after Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the M3 Philip Hasana Drive outbound, queuing towards Hospital Bend. Brackenfell Boulevard is slow-moving at the N1 Highway, and Viking Way eastbound in Epping, slow-moving towards the N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Tumi wearing a cricket top, which makes complete sense that you can't just wear every top. It has to be linked to the biggest sporting issue of the weekend. And today it's South Africa's cricket team, the Proteas at the Lords.
Absolutely. Well, South Africa are 94 for 2 at tea, and they need 188 runs to win against Australia on day 3 of the World Test Championship final at Lords. Adam Markram with 49 runs and Themba Bavuma with 11 are at the crease. And Proteas batter David Bedingham says that the aim is not being caught between attack and defence.
I think we definitely showed more intent today. I think myself, Thames, and probably Kyle tried. I think it was tough on that pitch, but I think that will probably be the way we go about it in the 4th innings. Personally, I don't think the Australians gave us any bad balls. I think the boundaries were hit were decent balls. But I think that's why they're the best in the world, I think. So hopefully going forward we can just counteract that and win the World Test Championship.
In Olympic news, South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee Chief Executive Officer Nozipho Jafta says that the newly elected board has received its mandate for the next 4-year term. This follows the re-election of President Barry Hendricks for a second term unopposed, along with the introduction of several new board members.
Yes, as soon as they were elected, they were given the mandate to be the board of SASCOC. So yes, they do have a mandate. They do work according to our constitution, according to the board charter, and I mean it's a mix of new and old board members. So there's continuity, but there's also new blood that has come through.
In netball, Free State Crinum's coach Martha Muswatle Sam says that they look forward to a physical clash against Zimbabwe in the Telkom Netball League second leg opener. The defending champions will aim to increase their points for the top spot, having wrapped up the first leg in second place behind the Gauteng Golden Fireballs with 10 points. And Muswatle Sam says that she wants to see her players maintain a high standard to help retain the championship at the Sun City Super Bowl.
We expect great performance against Zimbabwe tonight. We know that it's going to be a very physical game, but I think after the previous experience against them, we now know where we went wrong. And yeah, like any other game, we set very high standards for ourselves as a team, and this team is not going to be different.
In cycling, Australian Michael Matthews will miss this year's Tour de France with a lung problem. His team discovered a blood clot in his lung at a recent altitude training camp. Matthews won the last of his 4 Tour tests in 2022, with this year's edition starting on the 5th of July. Then in motorsport, Charles Leclerc defended Ferrari's work amid reports that the Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur will be ousted before the end of the Formula One season. The speculation hit a new level ahead of this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix, as multiple reports indicate that Vasseur's time is close to coming to an end. Ferrari is almost 200 points behind McLaren in the constructors' standings and hasn't won a race since Mexico last season. Leclerc has scored a podium only 3 times in 9 races, while Hamilton's best finish this season is 4th. We'll continue to keep a close eye on what is happening down there at Lords. I know that they just came back on the field, and South Africa now on 95 for 2. They need 187 runs to win.
So wait, 187 more to win?
Yeah.
Not 187 to win?
No, they need, all in all, the target is 282.
Because you're getting very excited now. I think it's only 187.
No, they need 187 runs. They need to get those runs to get to 282.
After school snacks, a bag of chips, or maybe some biscuits, instant noodles for lunch. Ultra-processed products such as these may be high in sugar, salt, or saturated fat. Having too much of these products could lead to diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. Our health is in danger. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels now. Sign the petition on heala.org. HEALA.org.
The reigning champions Banyana Banyana and 11 African national teams are ready to tackle each other for WAFCON 2024 to determine who are the real queens of the continent. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Experience the Women Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC 1 and SABC 2. Also available on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, let's get to the markets with on a Friday, Nochal, with Paswane Mpatlele, Senior Accounts Manager at Markway Fund Managers. Right, you got all the news, local and global. Go for it.
Afternoon, Ashraf, and to all your listeners, happy Friday. And when we look into the markets, Ashraf, it's what we call a chaos theory that is played out. Israel attacks Iran nuclear sites with 100 missiles. Iran tries to retaliate with 100 drones, but still works on more retaliations, especially after the disaster Israel has done to them. US says it's not involved. Middle East tension broadens as conflict rises as we go into the month of July. This development has increased market volatility as we are north of 20%. In addition to the market volatility is the pricing of the risk of expiration of tariff pause on the 8th of July on the US against the globe. Bets are still that it might not go below 10%, and the bets are still on the right. The fact that China will get a better deal than it currently has. Dollar takes this development with a rise up 0.5% at 98.4. Yields are following suit after breaking through a critical level as they add on inflation pressures as they price it forward. Oil prices are supporting this idea as they shot up 10% and now are just up 6% at $74.50 a barrel. They have increased the probability that back home here, if things are sustained above 65, we might be facing higher petrol prices. Gold prices move higher with these volatility actions at hitting all-time highs and now back below at $3,427 an ounce, up 1.2%. Bitcoin reflects its irrelevance in a high volatility game like today, down 1.4% at $104,500 per one Bitcoin. Equities as they play out, US is down across the board over 1%. Europe is also the same when you look at the DAX and CAC, JSE is down 1.5%, dragged by financials down 2.4%, industrials down 1.7%, and resource sector is the only provider of support, up 0.7%. When we close it down onto the currency game, we see the rand has managed to go back below 18 thanks to the fact that dollar is still higher in an environment where oil prices are higher. Rand against the dollar is at 17.94, rand against the euro 20.70, and rand against the pound 24.31.
Okay, perfect. There we are. Thank you so much for that, Paswane. Of course, we'll do it again on Monday. Well, maybe Tuesday, in fact, this being a long weekend. Paswane Mpatlele, right? Thank you for that. Right, let's get to... I have to tell you this. There's a slight change today with the fireside chat guest, which I'll tell you about just now.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Okay, I'm going to take your calls right away. I should tell you that, the planned guest, and you may have seen my tweet, was for today's fireside chat, was that young South African Pieter Kriel, the political activist who said lots of things, particularly in the last few months. Some may seem as the complete counterbalance to some of the guys at AfriForum. Anyway, the plan was for him to come in today, and he's been at some other event, and I think that event is just overrunning with time, so unable to commit to finally coming, which I think is a huge pity because we'd love to have chatted with him, right? Okay, you want to talk about some of the other big issues? I see and I'm looking at Sherwin Bryce's piece commenting about the Iranians commenting themselves in response to what's happened with regard to the Israel attack on Iran overnight. In the meantime, let's get to local issues firstly with Lennius Mashile. Lennius, hello.
Hello, how are you, Ashraf?
Yeah, I'm very good indeed, thanks, right? What's your point?
Yes, Ashraf, of course we are appalled and dismayed by the actions of the Zionist government in Israel. We as a civic movement, Sanko, we are really saddened by the flood damage in the Eastern Cape, and want to convey our condolences to all the families that have lost their loved ones, and also, of course, to those that have actually had their properties damaged by the floods. We just need to call upon all the government disaster agencies to intervene to try and mitigate the damage and the destructions that has been caused there. Also, of course, we want to call for municipalities to try by all means that people are not settled in flood lines or within flood plains as we move forward so that this doesn't repeat itself. Thanks, Ashraf.
Okay, got that. Well, there you are. You see that point about the flood lines and flood plains, you have to wonder, no matter what the position of people who are homeless and may want to live wherever they can, we have allowed that to happen. And therefore, I know they are. And it sounds horrible saying so. They're like sitting ducks, aren't they? They really would be sitting ducks because at some stage or the other, when there's bad weather, then they would be in big trouble indeed. Lennius Mashile, thank you for that. Right, there's a comment about the India plane crash.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to listeners. It's Sylvan Governor from Durban. Ashraf, with regard to the plane crash in India, one of the passengers posted that none of the electronic equipment was working on the plane. So I'd like to find out the flight aviation safety is not taken seriously, because if there was a checkup done on that plane before it could take off, we could have avoided this, because none of the electronics were working inside the plane. Example, the lights, air cons, and the on-screen displays. So how come the plane was taken off? If the inspections were done, this wouldn't have happened.
Okay, well, I don't know whether we can discard the inspections because that's one person tweeting. Do we know any better? I don't know any better. We can't say definitively that exactly is what happened. But yes, it's an issue to follow up, and it's a huge cause for concern. I can tell you South Africa, in terms of the Civil Aviation Authority, I think generally sets very, very high standards. I can tell you that, right? Talking about standards, here's one about Mamelodi Sundowns.
Good day, Asha. Reverend Adam Manganyi in Musina. I would like to wish Sundown all the best at the World Club Tournament. Amen.
That's it. Simple, reverent, best, amen, got it. I saw the pictures. Are they all in the USA now? It's a big deal, isn't it? And I hope they do well. I really do. So far, when it's come to like the World Club Championships, South African teams have struggled to get beyond that first round into the next one. And I hope things change this time. There's still further comments. I think there's no question. If I asked you what's the issue that's moving the national pulse today, it's got to be the Angie Motshekga comments with regard to the soldiers returning home.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, concerning the back home safe landing of the infantry soldiers from Rwanda mission, we won't devote on minister's statement. You can detect that from her words. She is not sure of their time and day of safe landing back to their barracks, whether today or tomorrow, as also routes and passages seem to be changing, as she said, meaning it's not a true or sure and safe easy maneuver for them back home. Thanks, Ashraf Mcete here.
Thanks for that, Mcete. Let me pick up. So here's the story on Iran. So you know that the Israelis believe that the Iranians have been fortifying themselves, strengthening themselves from a nuclear perspective, to attack the Israelis as a preemptive force. They've decided effectively to bomb out some significant targets in Iran. Now, Donald Trump, tweeting through his Truth platform, so maybe not tweeting, I don't know what the word is, not on Truth anyway, but anyway, he said this: I gave Iran a chance. No, let me say that again. I gave Iran chance after chance to make a deal. I told them, in the strongest of words, to just do it. But no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they got, and this I want to just rephrase, no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they got, they just couldn't get it done. I told them it would be much worse than anything they know, anticipated, or were told, that the United States makes the best and most lethal military equipment anywhere in the world, by far, and that Israel has a lot of it, with much more to come, and they know how to use it. Certain Iranian hardliners spoke bravely, but they didn't know what is about to happen. They are all dead now, and it will only get worse. There's already been great death and destruction, but there is still time to make this slaughter, with the next already planned attacks being even more brutal, coming to an end. Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left, and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. I could say Persian, by the way, if you go back historically. It's my words. Anyway, he continues, no more death, no more destruction. Just do it before it is too late, all in capitals. God bless you all. From Donald Trump on his Truth platform. Sure, that's heavy, I can tell you now. Here's one on Iran.
Ashraf, this is Nonde in Cape Town. Very nice and hot. I want to comment on this Middle East fiasco. To me, Iran is using those nuclear capabilities or weapons as a deterrent. It's part of their sovereignty. What business does spoiled Israel have in acting as a policeman? Or are they relying on their de facto policemen of the world, US? This is Nonde.
Well, thank you for that. When in fact, what you're saying, in fact, Donald Trump confirms in that Truth comment where he says, we have the most powerful armory in the world, and the Israelis have it, and they will use it, and they know how to use it, and they will even use more. So, just work out the maths on that one, and maybe somehow or the other link it. It's unrelated for the moment, but link it back to what's happened in the region of Israel and Palestine proper as well. Now, the Iranians themselves, and Sherwin Bryce Pease has tweeted about it too, the Iranians have responded saying, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, it just says, Excellency, I'm writing to you. This is from the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I need to get this right because it's very important. The Iranian Foreign Minister has written to the UN Secretary General, okay? And he is calling on for today's emergency session of the Council and reaffirms Iran's right to self-defense as per the UN Charter. So, just the first lines, he says, I am writing to you with utmost urgency and deep alarm regarding a brazen and unlawful act of aggression perpetrated by the Israeli regime against the Islamic Republic of Iran in a reckless and deliberate escalation that flagrantly violates the Charter of the United Nations and the most fundamental norms of international law. Israel has launched a coordinated series of military assaults targeting several Iranian cities and its peaceful nuclear facilities, senior military officials, scientists, and civilians. Amongst the targets was the Natanz nuclear facility, one of Iran's principal nuclear sites, and I won't continue because it's just too long. In fact, I'll get it tweeted out just now as well. Maybe we'll get Fusani to do the same from the SAFM Radio Twitter account too, but just sharing it off from Sherwin Bryce piece. So I wonder what you make of that and the potential for escalated violence. Shaka in Bloemfontein has got a view on that. We'll come to Shaka next.
Every murder has a moment when it could have been stopped. Countdown to Murder takes you inside the chilling timeline from ordinary days to unthinkable crimes. Real stories, real people, and the final hours before everything fell apart. Countdown to Murder. Every second tells a story. Thursdays at 9 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
This Youth Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit, power and potential of young South Africans. Join us as we dive into conversations that matter, from innovation to education and skills for the changing world. Empowering youth for meaningful economic participation. Because at SAFM, we're not just talking, we're leading the conversations that move us. Call us on 086 000 2032.
Okay, what for you moves the national pulse today? What for you moves the global pulse today? I think there's no question the global one has got to be the story of Iran and Israel, isn't it? In terms of local, it's got to be the Eastern Cape once again, and then the members of the South African Defence Force returning from that ill-fated trip to the DRC, isn't it? Shaka in Bloemfontein, go for it.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, good talking to you, man.
Yes, Ashraf, the attacking on Iran bears a hallmark of active involvement of the United States. It's basically the same intelligence, gatherings, the planning and the execution as those drones that happen in Russia, deep inside the territory of Russia. It's basically the same thing. It's something that has been happening for over a long period of time. The Mossad were the foot soldiers, and then the infrastructure in terms of satellites and other infrastructure was provided by the United States. Something is not a peacemaker. He's talking peace, but he's attacking. He's not even a peacemaker in Russia. He's a very sly and a very evil man. And he's obviously lying when he says the United States has got the best weapons. So those weapons are in Qatar, in Ukraine. The NATO and the United States put up their best weapons against Russia. They are all being destroyed, and they are just watching now. Look what is happening now in Ukraine. People are being killed by Russia, and the Ukrainians are paying a heavy price for Zelensky being used. Now Trump is using Netanyahu. This war has been planned for over a long period of time. Even the words of Trump when he says no, he has been telling Iran to come forward. Meaning that he used Netanyahu to attack Iran, and he will use Netanyahu to attack Iran.
Well, I mean, one thing we've learned with all these things, you never know what's going to happen next, isn't it?
Yeah. Netanyahu is it's a frontline man. The real the person who's conducting the war is United States. Obviously, United States and NATO.
All right, point taken, Shaka. Thanks for that. Let's get further comments from around the nation, by the way, on the issue of Iran. Peter in the Northern Cape. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Ashraf. Look, my view is that where did Israel get the right to claim to own the moral high ground and become the watchdog of the nation. The very countries that are attacking another for so-called nuclear weapons, they did the same thing with Iraq. Till this day, nothing was found. And Israel, having been through a genocidal process, is now the one executing genocide on many nations today. And these people claim to be the holiest of the holiest, and yet they have no conscience for killing innocent civilians. And this is not a Trump matter. This is an American matter, because America, who is supposed to be the big brother of the nations, is the one instigating, supplying, and also having executioners on this genocidal play that is taking place. The danger of this thing is it's going to take us to World War III. Is this really what we need in the world?
Well, I think nobody wants that. But, there's also been the sense of bravado from different groupings, like saying what they want as if it's all just fun and games when there's war, isn't it? So, Peter, your point is taken. I certainly don't want war. I think it has huge implications for the entire world, isn't it? Right, there's more comments from you. Let's hear it. Let's get back to the issue of security for our leaders, because that came up. 26 cars for Ramaphosa.
Hi, Ashraf. I hope this finds you well. You're speaking to Bongo from Newcastle here. On the issue of the president and security, yes, the president requires security, but not 50-something cars or 20-something cars. I was actually impressed. I was in Botswana somewhere in February, and a member of parliament was attending the events that I'm attending, and he was only driven in one car with one person, the driver of the car. And I was like, these are responsible leaders. Make your country safe so that you need minimal security as you're moving around. But then if you have 20, 30 bodyguards, you have no need to make this country safe, because it doesn't affect you. That the crime rate is so high and it's so dangerous to move around in this country.
Okay, I got that. Well, I don't know if I completely agree. What I'm saying, I hear the Botswana example. I don't know if I would agree that the president, and we're not looking at the name, because the president can be different, to change, every 5 years or whatever, that drives around in just one car anywhere in the country. And it's not about crime rate. There can always be levels of political intolerance, and you don't want to have a situation where a political leader is actually knocked off. I mean, the risks for that are great if you just have one car, for whatever the motivation may be. We have no reason to believe that. There needs to be more, but I don't think there needs to be 26. So let's hear that. But in terms of Botswana's one, wow, that's an ideal world, isn't it? Right, here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and your team, including SFM listeners. I just really am shocked with what I heard now on the news. 700 million for the budget for that national dialogue. 700 million. And then you say there are teachers that can't be paid. There's budget deficits, and there's this, there's that problem with money circulating in the country. 700 million just to waste on nothing. Let's be honest, they're just wasting money for nothing.
Okay, there we are. Here's another, and it goes back to the issue just before we get to the news, but another one on Ramaphosa.
Ashraf, the laughter of the president when they talk about the flood there, that says a lot. How can you laugh in the serious matter like this? There's no joke there. That is serious issues. Those people, they don't have to laugh just like that.
I actually agree with you. Tone, when that sort of thing comes up, I think is really, really important, isn't it? There's another comment before. Okay, let's get to a call quickly. We go to Mpumalanga. Becky, go for it. Hello.
It's very painful, Ashraf. How are you?
Very good indeed. Thanks. What's your point, quickly?
The 700 million would have been used far better than the dialogue. We are living in a fourth industrial revolution where we can use the services of visuals and so on. We can make use of facilities that are more effective, and that will be able to communicate with each other with far less, even less than 100,000. That includes meals and everything. But you want to tell me about 700 million whenever there is a disaster that has struck the Eastern Cape right now, KwaZulu-Natal and the Free State. And we've got a number of people in our country that are suffering. We've got crime rate that is very high, and you want to spend 700 million. I stand to object this. I stand to reject this. I stand not even to support this 700 million that has to be flushed and washed away. This is serious money laundering, I think.
Okay, so you think it's all being flushed down the drain, so to speak. Thanks for that, Becky. Again, we have a diverse opinions on those central issues that we talk about. And the issue of the national dialogue has definitely been center of attention all week, isn't it? Right, let's get to the news. And this news is brought to you by Absa Ultimate Banking. Apply online to get 34 benefits subject to affordability and scoring. Benefits may be subject to limitations. Terms and conditions apply. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. Well, here's Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. Judge dismisses appeal application in Chilota case and prays for the disaster response in the Eastern Cape. Good day to you. Bloemfontein High Court Judge Philip Loubser has dismissed the NPA's application for leave to appeal his decision to free Muwari Chilota from standing trial in the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal scandal. Chilota is the former PA of then Free State Premier Ace Magashule. Loubser set her free last week when he found that her extradition from the US was unlawful and that no South African court had the jurisdiction to try her. The state had argued that Chilota was the link to some of the 18 accused in the case. President Cyril Ramaphosa has commended Eastern Cape authorities and all other government departments through their disaster services for the swift response to the flood disaster that has hit parts of the province. At least 79 people have died. Schools, roads and health facilities have been affected. The search for more victims continues. President Ramaphosa visited the province to assess the flood damage.
The way that our departments at national level, the way that our departments at provincial level and at local government level responded to this disaster. That to me demonstrates the capability of our government in responding to disasters like this. As the Premier says, it could have been much worse than this. Obviously, we are very, very disturbed that so many people have passed away, but it could have been much worse. The response teams acted quickly.
A 3-year wage agreement has been reached between Transnet and its two recognised labour unions. This follows a lengthy negotiating process concluding at the CCMA. The deal signed yesterday with the United National Transport Union and the SA Transport and Allied Workers Union provides for an 18% wage hike between 2025 and 2028. The salary agreement, backdated to April 1st this year, includes a 6% increase in the housing allowance and medical subsidy. It also ensures job security with no mandatory retrenchments for the duration of the agreement. The annual sardine run along the KwaZulu-Natal coast could swim very close to Durban on Father's Day. Netters and anglers are anticipating a massive sardine shoal over the weekend as temperatures are expected to drop, drawing shoals closer to the shore. Fishing expert Adam Kamdar says only one angler netted sardines the next day and broke the dry spell.
He was the only one to net at Amgababa and made a good catch of about 100 crates. Team V's was out and about yesterday and made a successful haul at Amanzimtoti. The pilot shoals scattered by Tuesday's weather are quickly regrouping and there is a lot of bird activity from Port Shepstone to Heberden. The weather looks favourable for netting this weekend and hot spots to watch would be from Scottburgh to Isipingo Beach. What better way to celebrate Father's Day than to take him on the sardine run and make lifelong memories together?
Human rights groups say the Nigerian president's decision to pardon 9 Niger Delta activists who were executed in the 1990s doesn't go far enough. The 9 had organised peaceful protests to highlight pollution by oil giant Shell. The firm has always denied wrongdoing. The BBC's Will Ross has more.
The widow of one of the hanged activists welcomed President Tinubu's decision to issue a pardon, but Esther Barinem Kiobel says that still implies they were not innocent, and so she wants the Ogoni 9 exonerated. She says they were hanged in 1995 because of the greed of a select few. The activists' campaign to highlight oil pollution was viewed by the military government as a threat. Their trial for murder was internationally condemned as a sham, and today rights groups, including Amnesty International, are still calling for oil companies to be held account for the environmental damage in the Niger Delta.
The top story: a Bloemfontein High Court judge has dismissed the NPA's application for leave to appeal his decision to free Mourad Chalota from standing trial in the R255 million asbestos roof removal scandal. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khus.
All right, and a reminder, as per that news bulletin, is brought to you by Absa Ultimate Banking. Apply online to get 34 benefits subject to affordability, and scoring benefits may be subject to limitations. Terms and conditions apply. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Ultimate Value is opening an account with 34 benefits while getting her a treat. Ultimate Success is getting her the ballet shoes that you promised. With a 2,000 Rand balance booster, Ultimate Goals is living life on your own terms with a credit card with 0 monthly fees. Absa Ultimate Banking is about having it all in one account for 98 Rand per month. Apply online now. Your story matters. Absa, subject to affordability and scoring. T's and C's apply. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider.
In sports this hour, South Africa 120 for 2. They need 162 more runs to win against Australia at the World Test Championship final. And Cardoso believes that the Club World Cup is ideal test for Sundowns' depth, while Verstappen says he's not going to change approach at the Canadian Grand Prix despite race ban threat. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria has heavy traffic towards Stormful Road exit. The N1 northbound in Midrand has a stationary bus reported before New Road, and the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg queuing towards Crown Interchange. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a crash before Spaghetti Junction, queuing traffic both ways. The M4 northbound is queuing towards Blue Lagoon, and Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the R300 southbound slow moving towards Stock Road exit. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound has a stationary bus reported before Hospital Bend, and Duval Drive eastbound in Southfield has a crash reported at the M5 Prince George Drive junction. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Spar brings you 4 days of even more. 13 to 16 June only. Get 700 gram Sasco Premium Sliced Brown Bread. Buy 2 for 28 Rand. 1.5 litre Coca-Cola Original only. Buy 2 for 28, save 14 Rand. 1 kg Tokoman Peanut Butter, just 69.99, save 27 Rand. Or 6-pack Parmalat Everfresh Long Life Milk, only 84.99, save 30 Rand. Only at Spar, while stocks last.
The Blue Diamonds want to play their hearts out to secure important 3 points. But Masandawana ladies believe victory belongs to them. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the big clash of giants, JVW ladies and Mamelodi Sundowns ladies, the Sunday 15 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit cfi.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45, proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so first things first, I must apologize. You know, we had the fireside chat on a Friday, and the plan today was to have Peter Kriel on as the guest. That's the young Afrikaner youngster who's pronounced on so many issues that for many people he's like the antithesis of AfriForum's views, right? So the plan was to get him on today, but he was at another event, and I think it's just sort of overrun with time and unable therefore to come. But huge pity. We'll hopefully get to connect with him soon, if not on another fireside, maybe even on Monday, being Youth Day, because I think their views are, or the views of the young South Africans are particularly important. In the meantime, let's talk about this. You certainly heard this on the news, right? Judge Philip Loubser has dismissed the NPA's prayers for leave to appeal the invalidation of Morwadi Chalota's U.S. extradition. You know, that's an issue we covered the other day as well, right? So Kamogelo Sikwe, the SABC News reporter in the Free State, joins me now on the line to get an update on it. Kamogelo, appreciate your time. You're on the National Pulse. Kamogelo, do I have you there? Hello? Kamogelo, hello? You're live on the radio. You're live on the National Pulse. No, maybe not. There's some disconnection. I'll tell you what. Let's do this. We'll try and reconnect as soon as we can. In the meantime, here's a comment regarding the 26 cars that were part of that whole car motorcade that provided security for the president. Think about this.
Ashraf, I do not have a problem with cars and what, but sometimes we need to give attention to details. Remember, in the Eastern Cape, in that incident, there were a number of leaders, ministers, premier, president, MECs, what. So please, let's first check as to who was there and then how many cars were allocated to each leader. Then we can have a discussion. So I don't approve of this thing of people just make noise and without really getting the details.
Okay, and that comment's coming from Condelia, right? So interesting point, and I think you're right. So if there's more than one, the president and other ministers, and obviously each one has their own numbers. So we don't have those numbers. I think it would be quite bizarre that the president himself would actually have 26 just for one president. Doesn't make much sense to me, but fine. I think your point is right. Let's find out more about who exactly were there and the numbers, and then see, in fact, how many cars, what's standard practice around that. Okay, we do now have Kamogelo Sikwe with me, SABC News reporter covering the story of the U.S. extradition case. Kamogelo, good to chat to you. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Thank you for your time. Right, so tell me what's happened. I think it's quite a significant finding here.
Indeed. The listeners will remember that last week, Judge Philip Loubser actually found that South African courts did not have jurisdiction to put Morwadi Chalota on trial, and this was on the basis that her extradition from the U.S. was unlawful. Particularly, what he cited was a judgment that was handed down by the Supreme Court of Appeal, which they refer to as the Shoot judgment. In this judgment, the Supreme Court of Appeal ordered that only the Minister of Justice in the country has the powers to apply for extradition from another country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Judge Loubser found that it was only 2 months after the judgment was handed down in the Supreme Court of Appeal that the NPA applied for extradition in the US. So he said in his judgment last week that the NPA ought to have known that it was unprocedural because there was already this order, and this order was binding because it was coming from a higher court. So today we heard from the NPA in their application for leave to appeal saying that they did not know that the respondents had actually included that judgment, in their exhibit when they were doing the trial within a trial for Moradi Cholota while she was challenging her extradition. So they did not go into that. They did not bring relevant witnesses to court to come and answer specifically on the issue of this particular judgment that the court was talking about. So they wanted the court to, grant them the leave to appeal on the basis that they did not go into that. They did not go into that judgment, and also because the NPA is challenging that judgment, and they have a case at the Constitutional Court. But this is something that was absolutely a bone of contention because even the respondents, the defense was saying that there is no such case before the Constitutional Court. And if there is such a case at the Constitutional Court, that appeal only came after the fact. And that fact is they extradited Moradi Cholota unlawfully, and then they made that appeal. Yeah. So that there should be a case, So these were some of the issues that came out. But the judge did say that he did not make a mistake in his application of that judgment, and really the state cannot, convince him otherwise.
Okay, so what happens next now?
What happens next is that the NPA, according to its spokesperson in a statement that I just received now, will petition the Supreme Court of Appeal, on their own to challenge that decision by Judge Lobsha. And the main reason for them wanting to have Moradi Cholota as part of the accused in this 255 million rand asbestos scandal is particularly because they say she's the link to many of the people accused. Remember, there are now 17 people that are accused, excluding Moradi Cholota. With her, it's 18 people. So she is a link between a lot of the business people that are involved in this matter. So not having her as part of the accused might weaken the state's case.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it's a key witness. Were you able to just finally get a sense of the mood of, let's say, the NPA or their legal team after Judge Philip Lobsha dismissed the NPA leave to appeal?
I mean, the prosecutor, Johan Denason, was really disappointed. I think this is one case where he feels very strongly about the way things have been handled. Even with the state witnesses, the two state witnesses that they had brought in during the trial within the trial, you could see that he had a lot of confidence in the case that they were presenting. And for him, it has just been one of those disappointing moments. Even today, we could get a sense of, his disappointment. I mean, immediately after the judge adjourned, he walked out, literally storming out of court. So, yeah, I want to believe that it's very important for the state to have Moradi Cholota, and not having her really will have a big impact on the case.
Okay, let's leave it at that. I'm sure we're going to get a response on that. Kamogelo Sikwe, the SABC news reporter covering the story from the Free State, in fact. So I'm sure you have a view on that. That's another big issue that moves the national pulse today amongst many, many others. And the one other big one has got to be Eye on Lords. How can you ignore that? South Africa now 126 for the loss of 2 wickets. So there's a partnership going on, the type of partnership I spoke about earlier, to say we need 150 plus partnership between two players that will take the game to South Africa's victory. So 128-2 at the moment. Remember, so what's the target now? Another 154 and still more to win. Markram and Bavuma are in there, and let's just hope they stay there. Well, what about you? We're going to get your thoughts as well, and we'll cross to developments in Egypt that links to Israel and Palestine right after this.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Spar brings you 4 days of even more. 13 to 16 June only. Get 200-gram Nescafe Gold coffee jar or 220-gram refill. Any two for 250. Save 130 Rand. 200-gram Bakers Eat Some More biscuits. Any two for 45. Save 13 Rand. 6-pack Parmalat Everfresh Long Life Milk. Just 84.99. Save 30 Rand. Or 1.5-litre Coca-Cola Original only. Buy 2 for 28. Save 14 Rand. Only at Spar while stocks last.
The Blue Diamonds want to play their hearts out to secure important 3 points. But Masandawana ladies believe victory belongs to them. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the big clash of giants, JVW ladies and Mamelodi Sundowns ladies, the Sunday 15 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit CFI.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI, CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So there's 2 big hotspots in the Middle East at this point in time. Of course, the Iranian-Israel issue is something we've been talking about already. That's one thing. Then, a few days ago we touched on the issue of the flotilla, and that sort of got turned back, or people got arrested, and maybe some of them got detained, others got sent back home. That's one issue. Now, in the meantime, there's been activists from around the world, and they've been coming from many parts, sort of marching, I think, from Tunisia and many other parts of not just Africa, but other parts of the world. And they plan to all meet up in Egypt. And the plan thereafter is to march from there on foot through the Sinai Desert towards Gaza. And what's the purpose? The purpose is to challenge the Israeli siege. And, this is from a humanitarian siege point of view, that many people are dying through malnutrition. Not my words. Check out what the United Nations has to say about all of that. So their court clearly is for an end to the genocide, but certainly to try and save lives on humanitarian grounds, and therefore to challenge the Israeli siege, which at this point in time it seems like it cannot be challenged in terms of it can't be stopped, not by anybody. So let's do this. We're going to chat to Hasina Kathrada in just a moment or so. In the meantime, there's some comments from you. Jack in Polokwane. Let's get your thoughts. Hi, Jack.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, how's it, man?
Hi, man. You see why people lose hope in the ANC now? This thing of the national dialogue, what is the difference between this one and the SONA? Because promises are made and made and made, thereafter nothing. Now you get the president who was in the Eastern Cape, how much was pledged there for those people who lost their lives and everything? And you come and spend 700 million for just to sit and talk.
Well, I mean,
and was budgeted for. Who approved the budget for this? Because if they are transparent, we need, after this dialogue, they must give a list of all the people that benefited. What did they supply?
Well, I mean, you mean the supply in terms of setting up the national dialogue? It hasn't even started.
Yeah, the national dialogue. How much was spent on this? How much was spent on food? How much was spent on accommodation? And who provided the services?
Okay.
It must be, people must know.
Okay, those questions will be asked. I hear you, Jack in Polokwane. Thank you for that. I mean, we don't have the answers now because it's early days in terms of who gave the go-ahead. I mean, we should maybe put that question to the president, may well be asked in Parliament as well. There's been many people who are skeptical, but there have been others as well to say, come on, something has to give. Why would the president... Because he has mentioned this before. He didn't just come out by surprise to say it's going to come. What he's now done is appointed the so-called eminent persons now. So now we know the names of the people who are part of a steering committee. But that's not the actual dialogue. That's a steering committee that will lead us to this national dialogue. Will it work? You know, I'm not there to dismiss it now. I think anything that one can do to get things working in a different direction must be lauded, but is it going to be totally effective? I don't know until we know, isn't it? I don't know until we know. Right. Let's see if I can pick out another few calls. We are battling just for the moment to connect with Hasina Kathrada because I really need to know what's their plan, and we want to connect with her soon enough. In the meantime, let me just check with Keys if I can connect to some of the WhatsApp that we can play, but otherwise you can call in too, right? And you can call in right away. You know that wherever you may be, and the first-time callers, well, we want to welcome you on air and give you a high five if I possibly can. So here's the thought. I mean, is there anything that, let's say in the last week, because, you know, we talk about many things on the show, but I can tell you now, we also have a situation where in having many things, there are other things we can't cover because there's just no space, right? Are there any issues in the last week that we potentially may have missed that you think, listen, there's a chance I want to raise this issue? I certainly want to hear from you and what you have to say. In the meantime, let me update you on the cricket score now. Couple of more good runs have come South Africa's way, 135 for 2, so that we've now gone below the 150 target needed to win. 146 runs needed to win. Oh my goodness, man. I tell you what, I want our national team to win. I mean, that's the best national dialogue you can get, right? Okay, we've chatted already about the plans coming together for people congregating in Egypt to march on to Gaza through the Sinai Desert. With us is Hasina Kathrada. You may be familiar with the name, but Hasina's taken up a role as activist on this issue here. So Hasina, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yep.
Good to hear your voice.
Much appreciated. Thanks for your time. So tell me, where are you and what are you doing there?
Okay, so I'm part of about 4,000 people. I'm a part of 4,000 people from 86 countries who have come to Egypt, gathered in Cairo over the last couple of days. And we set out today for the Global March to Gaza. So it's a global movement, non-violent, peaceful initiative, mainly to let the people of Gaza know that they are not alone, to call for an end to the siege, and to call for the ceasefire. So we set out today from Cairo, and the plan was for us to go to a place about 5 hours away from Cairo by bus called Arish. We set out this morning at midday, at about 12:30, and got to a toll gate. Well, our particular group got to a toll gate at about 1:30, and we were stopped by police. And along with about 250 other people from international delegations, we were stopped here. Our passports were taken away, and in the last 10 minutes, I literally got my passport back. So at various points, there've been police that have stopped the people that are on the march. And we're hoping to continue now and make our way to Arish. And then, of course, the plan is to walk over the next 2 to 3 days to Rafah.
Mm-hmm. So your passport was taken away. I take it by what? The Egyptian authorities? And if so, why?
Yes. Egyptian authorities, no reason given. I think, they just kept the passport from 1:30 till close to 6:30. People just gathered, sang songs, great mood, lots of different countries. And I actually met the head of the Global March to Gaza, Saif Abu Kashek, earlier, and chatted to him a bit, and he was saying, it took months to get this movement together, and we're here now. And at that point, we weren't sure what would, whether we get our passports back, when, that kind of thing. And he said, whatever happens, it's been successful, because with 4,000 people coming together from 86 countries, it's a huge success. And, the world's attention has been drawn to the plight of the people of Gaza.
Talking about success very quickly as we get to news time, what would success mean for you? I mean, I would think ultimately you want to do what the countries of the world are unable to do, which is actually put a stop to that actual siege, so that people who need humanitarian aid can actually receive it, right? Why do you think that your grouping may be more successful in doing that?
I think, it's quite important to me that the people of Gaza get this message from the world, that we have not forgotten them, and that there are people that are willing not just to speak about it. I mean, we're always speaking about our solidarity for the Palestinian struggle, and about how horrified we are that children are being starved to death, and families are being torn apart, and everything that we've witnessed since October 2023. But I think for me, on a very personal level, it's for the people of Gaza to know that they have not been forgotten, that we will walk, we will watch, and we will not stop until, the aid reaches them, until there's a ceasefire, and until they see, the liberation.
And Hasina, just the last thing very, very quickly, right? I'm looking at the practicalities here. So you've got your passports. For you to cross over into the Sinai desert area, just help us with geography. I mean, do you have to pass through a Palestinian checkpoint, an Israeli checkpoint? And as you answer that, how sure are you they're going to allow you in? But you've got about 30 seconds to answer that.
Okay, so there aren't any, they are Egyptian, not checkpoints, but they've set up checkpoints, several of them, and this is what we at one particular one. However, this is, in my opinion, this is a delay. We've been delayed a couple of hours, and we'll proceed from here. Once we get to Arisha, from there we're going to walk as a global movement for 2 to 3 days, about 48 kilometers, until we reach the Rafah border.
Okay.
So there is no plan to go into Gaza.
Okay, got that. And we certainly will need to just cover that story as and when it happens, every footstep along the way. Much appreciate your time, Hasina Kathrada, part of a grouping, a global movement of people, 4,000 people, I understand, 86 countries getting together to effectively have one goal: to stop the siege, as per Israel, against the people of Gaza, from a completely humanitarian point of view. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again. I shall have a quick look at those headlines. President Ramaphosa says government will look into the cause of the severe flooding that infected the Mthatha area of the Eastern Cape. A Bloemfontein High Court judge has dismissed the NPA's application for leave to appeal his decision to free Moradi Chalotta from standing trial in the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal scandal. And the UN Security Council will convene tonight in an emergency session following a request from Iran amid Israeli airstrikes on their country. There's a full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N4 eastbound in Pretoria has a crash before Watermeyer Street, the R21 northbound in Kempton Park, a crash at the R23 Benoni exit, and the N3 northbound in Bedfordview, a crash near Van Buren Road, queuing traffic both ways. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a crash at Spaghetti Junction, the N3 westbound, a stationary vehicle after the Pavilion Shopping Centre exit, and Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the R300 southbound in Delft queuing towards the N2 highway exit, Voortrekker Road in Elsies River, slow moving at Holt Road, and Veltevreden Road southbound in Mitchells Plain has a crash reported at Morgenstead Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Chumi, I want to just say one thing. I reflect the national pulse, but my heart is at the Lord's Cricket Ground for South Africa against Australia.
And my heart is smiling. Actually, my face is smiling right now. I'll tell you why. Because we still have 8 wickets. But South Africa right now are sitting on 147 for 2. They need 135 more runs to win against Australia at the World Test Championship final at Lord's. Aiden Markram is sitting on 71 runs while Captain Themba Bavuma is on 39. And I think one thing that makes me happy is that this partnership has put on 75 over off 115 balls for that third wicket, which is definitely working for us. And just by the way, Cricket South Africa has confirmed that Bavuma has a hamstring strain, but he's opted to continue playing. If you see him actually running there, you can see he's kind of limping, but you can see he's giving his best. And if South Africa are successful, it will be the joint highest successful run chase at this Lord's specifically ground. Now, England successfully chased against New Zealand back in 2004, and West Indies chased against England in 1984. And I can't wait to say South Africa are also part of that statistics. In football, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso says that he expects a different style from their opponents in America, a contrast to what Sundowns are used to in the local league. The Brazilians take on Ulsan HD of Japan in their opener on Tuesday before facing Germany's Borussia Dortmund and Brazil's Fluminense in Group F.
Usually the teams play in defense against us because we are stronger, and they just aggress us with long balls in the front. So we have to cope with the different style of game that doesn't allow us to really stay in their half pitch, because they, in one touch, they just put the ball in the front. But I believe that we will play against teams that will have capacity to escape from our pressure. I believe we'll play against teams that will have capacity to submit ourselves also in our half pitch. And that's why I believe that only a very complete team from Mamelodi Sundowns will be able to cope with the quality that we're going to face.
Meanwhile, FIFA President Gianni Infantino says that the Club World Cup, which kicks off on Sunday, marks a historic new era for the game, comparing it to the first World Cup that was held back in 1930. Infantino also took aim at critics of FIFA's ticketing policy and says that skeptics who had questioned the need for the tournament would quickly change their minds. The 32-team competition with clubs from all continents get underway with Inter Miami facing Egyptian club Al Ahly at Hard Rock Stadium at midnight South African time. In rugby, Bulls coach Jake White insists that past results won't influence tomorrow's United Rugby Championship final against Leinster at Croke Park. White was responding to Irish media questions about the Bulls' losses in their previous 2 finals, including last year's narrow defeat. He also dismissed talk of Leinster's own lack of URC titles, saying that both teams start from scratch.
It doesn't make any difference to, I generally don't believe that any coach ever talks about what happened 20 years ago and you lost in a playoff for, I mean, this group of players have probably far exceeded the expectation of anybody in the last 4 years. I mean, to play 3 finals with average age of our team in the last 4 years has been the youngest of most teams in the competition. Over and above that, the experience of international rugby compared to any other teams we've played, and you talk about the Glasgow's, the Edinburgh's, the Leinster's, the Munsters. I mean, they're laden with international players, and you guys would know the premium of what it's like to be an international player, play in front of big crowds, play in big stadiums, play in pressure situations is the thing that defines players that are good enough and not good enough. So I'm not for 1 minute saying that we're not how can I put it? We're not aware of the fact that we've had 3 finals, but we're also very aware of the fact that we've exceeded everything that anyone's ever expected, and we've probably batted above our weight for a long time. But hopefully this game will be the one where we will learn from the two other opportunities we had to win a competition like this.
Well, the clash is at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Then in motorsport, Max Verstappen says that he won't change his approach despite being on the verge of a race ban ahead of this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix. Verstappen was given 2 penalty points for his collision with George Russell last time out in Spain, which means that he has 11 penalty points on his super license from the last 12 months. And Verstappen will need to have 2 clean weekends to ensure that he's not hit with a race ban. Just to keep you up to date again, South Africa now is sitting on 154 for 2. They need 128 more runs to win. Remember, the target is 282. I can never understand if you're out there and you don't love cricket. An interesting story, actually. I was taught the rules of cricket by my helper when I was young.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Our technical producer here actually was telling me, I don't know how it works. I was explaining. I was like, just sit with someone that understands. As you watch, you'll understand.
Well, listen, at the moment on that target, it's a 154 for 2, another 128 more. The next target is to get to below 100 without losing a wicket. Once you get to below 100, then the psychological balance turns South Africa's way. I can tell you the win predictor at the moment has Australia at 26%, South Africa at 74%. But I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I don't want to say nothing.
Yeah.
I just want us to win. No wobbles. I just want us to win.
Absolutely. Easy does it. The Proteas, I'm all behind you. I'll be back again between 7 and 8. And today we look forward to the URC final and also the F1 action that is happening at the Canadian Grand Prix. Other than that, ke nna Tumen Kgapele. Modimo ke yo.
In a land scorched by the sun and shaped by time, life refuses to surrender. From the silent stalk of the Arabian leopard to the resilient march of the sand gazelle, witness nature's fiercest survivors. Arabian Inferno, a journey into one of Earth's most extreme habitats where every day is a battle for survival. This is the wild. This is Arabian Inferno. Sundays at 6 p.m. on S3. Open up.
For over 40 years, we've stood with the artists, championing the arts in all their forms. Now we unveil the next chapter, the Standard Bank Art Lab, a new gallery space where bold ideas take center stage. Opening with a celebration of tapestry, because like these woven masterpieces, the arts are woven into who we are. Step inside, let the art move you, grow you. Standard Bank, proud lead B20 sponsor, authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
This week on Off Pitch Goals, after a successful career representing the likes of Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and SuperSport United, Thuso Phala tackles the property business. Join us as he breaks down his impressive portfolio and lets us in on his plans for the future. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 14 June at 8:30 p.m. Off Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
SAFM invites young people between the ages of 18 to 35 to take over the airwaves this Youth Month. All you have to do is send a WhatsApp voice note or text message to 061 410 4107 or email info@safm.co.za. Tell us which show you'd like to co-host and what youth-focused issues the G20 should incorporate ahead of the summit. And we could be calling you. Terms and conditions apply.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Tell you what, well, I've got my eye on the runs. Jimmy Moyaha has got his eye on the rands. Jimmy, you tell me what's on your mind.
Good afternoon, Asif. Good afternoon to the listeners. The only thing on the minds of investors this Friday afternoon is the tensions in the Middle East. The war breaking out between Israel and Iran has had a negative impact on every single market. No market was spared. If we look at equity markets, every international equity market was in the red. The biggest losers in Asian session were the Nikkei and the Shanghai Composite, alongside the Hang Seng, to be fair, in the European markets, the CAC and the DAX more than 1% down in each case. The Nasdaq's down 0.8%, the S&P down 2/3%. Our own local markets, financial stocks down 2.7%, industrials down 2%, resources somehow making it through up about 0.5%, but that's likely due to the positive gold price that we're seeing at the moment. And the overall all-share down 1.7%, the top 40 down 1.6%, platinum pricing down 4%, palladium 1.5% in the red. Brent crude is back about $70 a barrel on the back of these tensions. It's at $73.60 a barrel. The gold price $3,425 a pound out. So by all accounts, the flurry back into safe havens and taking money off the table and putting them in less riskier assets is what seems to be the theme on this Friday. The rand even weakening against the dollar coming back into favor as the safe haven currency. $1 will cost you 17 rand 89 at the current moment. €1, 20 rand and 70 cents. 1 British pound, 24 rand 33, and $1 Australian dollar, 11 rand 65. Bitcoin's come off as well, at around $105,000. So going into the weekend, I think all eyes are going to be on the escalating tensions in the Middle East, whether or not they can be resolved, whether or not we can see those tensions subside. And going into next week, potentially that could be what the market is looking forward to. If we do see an escalation in the tensions or we continue to see them dragged out, I think the Brent crude price will continue to climb higher, the gold price will continue to climb higher, and this will likely be to the detriment of equity markets. But we'll have to hope and see if that plays out next week. Hopefully it doesn't, and hopefully we do get some form of ceasefire or some form of calming of the tensions. But going into the weekend, not the best picture from a market's perspective, and I suppose we'll have to wait and see what happens next week.
Okay, Jimmy, thanks for that. And we will absolutely connect next week. I think Tuesday is going to take the Monday off for reasons that are pretty obvious indeed. What we're not doing is not taking off now. So we don't have a fireside chat guest today because of some changes. But we do have you. We do have your thoughts because you're on the pulse. I want to hear you after this.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Right, as always, there's lots of people with diverse opinions from diverse parts of South Africa. Here's one.
Hey, Ashraf, on the issue of Ramaphosa having laughed at that scene, I'm not surprised. He encapsulates how South Africans are. You see, South Africans, we go to the funeral, then we go to the cemetery. After the cemetery, we come back and we eat. After eating, we forget about what happened. We forget everything about you, the deceased. We forget where we are coming to bury somebody. We don't even talk about your name. We are laughing, drinking alcohol and everything. I'm not surprised. He's representing how South Africans behave.
Sure. Well,
hallelujah.
Thank you. I can't speak on behalf of everybody because clearly some people do that, others don't. But that is disturbing, and I certainly hear that very often, isn't it? Pitso in Kwakwa. Go for it, Pitso. Hello.
Hi, how are you, Afra?
Yeah, I'm good indeed. Right. What's your point?
Thank you. No, I just wanted to make a little contribution on the issue of dialogue.
Go for it.
And I just agree with you, especially on the basis of the last speaker. People are so used to say generalize South Africans. It can never be South Africans on everything. Even the issue that I'm going to raise here, people who are against or do not agree with the national dialogue that has been initiated by government. They generalize on everything that's South African. It's some South Africans. And the issue of dialogue, as it is now, the radios, everywhere else, media, it's already a national dialogue on this matter. Even them who are opposed to it, it's already a national dialogue. It's already started. But the main thing that I want to indicate, Ashraf, is that this dialogue is just part of the constitution, which is reviewed. People make submissions almost every year. It's part of it. We can never be static. A car, it gets to get to service, everything else, it gets to be renewed. This 30 years definitely requires a national dialogue, because if government takes decisions alone, it will still be blamed. This time it says, let South Africans take part, just like when the Constitution was written, South Africans were involved through different means. And this national dialogue, people should be positive rather than be negative. But those who are negative, they are already in national dialogue, most unfortunately.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for raising that. Okay. Well, I agree. I think that the most fundamental part is there something rotten in our country at the moment? The answer is yes. So something needs fixing, and it's not just in Parliament. Is there a glue that can put it together? Now, I'm not going to be saying I'm a supporter of CODESA, but maybe it's time, if the national dialogue leads to a type of new CODESA talks for a new vision of South Africa now, 31 years later, then maybe that's a good thing. What I don't know is exactly what they're going to say. So let's not preempt it, but that could well be the issue, right? Okay, Kaya, we're coming to you next.
Spar brings you 4 days of even more, 13 to 16 June only. Get 1 kg stock country spread tub for 42.99, save 15 Rand. 1 litre liquid fruit, any two for 50, save 26 Rand. 5 kg Goldie IQF chicken, mixed portions, just 179.99, save 80 Rand. Or 2.5 kg Hewlett's white sugar, only 49.99, save 19 Rand. Only at Spar while stocks last.
The Blue Diamonds want to play their hearts out to secure important 3 points. But Masandawana ladies believe victory belongs to them. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the big clash of giants, JBW ladies and Mamelodi Sundowns ladies, the Sunday 15 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
A new client, a bulk discount, a chance to expand. Business opportunities don't wait, but with a Standard Bank Business Revolving Loan, neither do you. Get up to 10 million Rand in funding, access it anytime, and borrow again as you repay, giving your business the cash flow it needs when it needs it. Keep your business growing with a Standard Bank Business Revolving Loan. Visit standardbank.co.za/business loans to apply. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
This Youth Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit, power, and potential of young South Africans. Join us as we dive into conversations that matter, from innovation to education and skills for the changing world. Empowering youth for meaningful economic participation. Because at SAFM, we're not just talking, we're leading the conversations that move us. Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Here's a question. Are you keeping an eye on the cricket? I mean, we're helping you if you're not, but are you excited about the fact that South Africa needs 118 more runs to win? We've won 64 for 2 now, 118 more runs to win. We have 8 wickets in hand. If we don't lose wickets, we win this game. This partnership needs to continue as long as possible. If we do that, we will win the World Test Cricket Championship. That's really the numbers. I'm excited. I hope you are, okay? Kaya in Cape Town, hello.
Hi, Ashraf. First-time caller.
Welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, just want to comment about the issue of the disaster in Tata.
Right.
Yeah, I think there has been a lot of distrust between citizens and politicians to such an extent that even when something good is happening or something good is being done, we are not able to see that. We so hesitant and pessimistic about it, because what is happening, having the president and everyone going to where the disaster is, I think it's a good thing. And the second thing is that people are complaining about they saw people laughing. I mean, we normally attend funerals. People don't cry the whole day on a funeral. There are times where people are trying to make light discussion just to lighten up the heavy weight. It's not to say they are insensitive or they don't realize of what is happening. I mean, there's conversation that people would have that would make them have maybe a small life just to lighten up. So I think we are being unfair in criticizing them. Yes, we have every right to criticize our government, but when they're doing something good, I think we should applaud them, or we should at least, even if we don't applaud them, we should at least be able to say, at least they're doing something right. The president there, the premier is there, the minister is there, ministers, not even one minister, but more than one minister is there to look at the disaster, to say we are here, we see what is happening.
Okay, got that. Well, I'll tell you what, thanks for that contribution, Kaya, in Cape Town, and do call in again. That's all I can say. But very importantly, in terms of your point, first of all, regarding the ministers, and that's the point that Condile made the other, just now, in fact, to say there were more than one minister, quite a few, and therefore those cars were not for one person only of 26, just by the way, for one person. Just factor in the amount. Now, the fact that they were all there is good. I think they should be there. I would be surprised if they didn't get there. The question often is that these type of floods and natural disasters, they do happen, and they return, not just in South Africa, but around the world. But too often we find that the best time that these ministers are there is after the event. Is there a way they can be more preemptive in understanding where the disasters are likely to happen, and to be very clear, to set in place, motion in place, the barriers that will prevent the disasters from becoming disasters? That's the one thing. The part about the crying, I hear you. It's an interesting point you bring up. I can't relate to it, but I hear you to say even amidst deep sorrow, people have to chuckle because they have to find a way to just smile and get on with their lives. And until we know really what goes on in their minds and their hearts, we can't really say. It's not like it's a party, it's a chuckle. I certainly get you. Thank you for that. Right, let's get to more calls and more on the dialogue.
Hi, Ashraf. What is the national dialogue for? What is it for? I don't understand. They want to be there for a talk show. That's it. Nothing will come out of that thing.
But what's the absence of a national dialogue? Should we not be talking at all? Like, do we not foresee that there are too many fault lines in our country, and if we can get some wise people to get together, maybe craft a new way forward, and if you're going to call that a national dialogue, is that wrong? Should we just ignore it? Because listen, the current political parties, whoever they are, they don't seem to be fixing things up. So if we can get a different insight, the wise men and women of our country, and adopt what they say, wouldn't that be a good thing?
Hi, Ashraf. I'm about the president and his 26 or however many cars. Although when the president was there, he did say that there were quite a few ministers that were with him at the site. So were they maybe not all part of the motorcade? Maybe was that why it was so huge? Because each of them has their own little motorcade, and if they all sort of grouped in together, and then it would look like extra massive.
Yeah, I think, of course, your message, as you know, is something I've just sort of said, very similar just now, that there were many people, and that's why, right? Here's the UN on the UN.
Ashraf, what is the use of United Nations? That General Secretary, what powers does he have? Because it's clear Israel and America wants to do as they wish, and they are doing as they wish in the presence of United Nations. So that body, that forum is of no use. Thank you very much, Sabata Chimbal.
Well, I mean, I think he's doing a good job. But a lot of it, what he says, he reflects the anger of the people, but he can't do much more than that. And I agree with you. And the bigger issue is again that the United Nations Security Council and some countries have got a veto, and the USA is amongst them. And regarding the issues in South Africa, Palestine, Israel, they've used that veto forever. And therein lies the big problem, isn't it? Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Akele from Mama Steel. Ashraf, this war, it's clearly a war of USA. The war between Russia, the so-called war between Russia and Ukraine, and the war between Israel and Iran, That is the war that is fought by USA. There's no way that Ukraine can fight Russia for the time that they've taken. It's been too long. There's no way. Thank you, Ashraf.
Okay, they can't fight the Russians for the time that it's been taken. I tell you what, Bavuma has just been, I don't know whether the word is dropped. The fielder didn't get his hands to it, but there was a huge chance, and he just fell short of the fielder who went diving close to the boundary. Phew, man. Bavuma's on 48, Markram's on 81. Come on, guys. If Markram gets over 100 and Bavuma gets about 70 and Markram lands on 120 or 30, I'll be talking about South Africa, the World Test Champions. Do I sound like I'm just all fan? Because I am a fan of my country and of cricket, absolutely. Right, here's another one more that I want to just pick up on the floods.
Good evening, Ashraf. My question is, with all those ministers, MECs, and the president attending to the disaster to do what they say, we were there to show solidarity and we saw the disaster. Will it translate into action? Will it translate into all those ministers actively doing something to prevent this, what we're seeing today? And I doubt that anything will change. It's just they were there to show their faces and they're out of sight and the place will be out of mind. Sbu in Hillcrest.
Thanks for that, Cebu in Hillcrest. I must say, that's a point that I brought up earlier, that often you get these recurring stories and they say no stone will be left unturned and then nothing really happens. But something has to give. Natural disasters do occur in all parts of the world, by the way, not just South Africa. You know that. Others have big earthquakes, people dying in their thousands, right? The big question is not whether these disasters don't come. It's like, what are the preventative measures? And do we allow people to live below these flood lines? And that appears to be the case. Let me leave it at that because our time is up. I can tell you now just an update on that cricket score. So South Africa 173 now for two. They're still going well. Just over 114 runs more so to win approximately. And really, for me, it's all about these two holding on. If they can stick around and not lose wickets, because wickets change things completely. If they can stick around and get close, we could well have an incredible victory and a champion nation delivering champions in all aspects. I would just love that. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, long weekend. Listen to the podcast. Go to safm.coza. Otherwise, Fusani, I know, has tweeted all of it out via SAFM Radio on the X platform. Let's get the news. Here's Greg House.
Government to probe Eastern